I'd like to call the, there's Derek.
You earned it.
I'd like to call the common council meeting for Tuesday, April 21st to order. Has it been appropriately noticed?
Yes, it has, Your Honor.
Everyone, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Here.
Alderman Zwart.
Here.
Alderman Stray. Alderman Kavieski.
Here.
Alderman Rogers.
Here.
Alderman Rozak. Alderman Shaw.
Here.
Alderman Ellis.
Here.
First item tonight is comments and suggestions from citizens. If anybody has anything they'd like to say from the audience, please come up and say your piece. Go ahead. You're not a citizen, but
Yes. Tonight, I just want to recognize the contributions of the council. It's been a pleasure working with this group through the years, and I want to recognize specifically our outgoing aldermen for their service and our outgoing mayor as well on behalf of the city. First, our aldermen, I want to recognize and thank our three outgoing aldermen, Derek Zwart, Tom Stray, and Charlie Shaw, for your dedicated service through the years to our wonderful community. Each of these gentlemen has given their time and talents to make Oconomowoc a special place where people want to live, work, and play. And we want to recognize your contributions that each of you has made in our city and share our appreciation of your service over the years. It's certainly been a pleasure working with all of you, and it's been a wonderful group dynamic through the years. And I think everyone working together, we've done some great things. So thank you, Alderman Zwart, for your 6 years of service. I know. I'm terrible, right? Alderman Stray for your 7 years of service, and Alderman Shaw for your 6 years of service. And I just want to give a round of applause to each of you, and thank you for your service, and wish you all the best in your journey ahead. So if everyone would join me.
Thank you.
Who's Thomas? Oh, he's a saint.
That's right.
And a wild one, that's where I take over.
So special thank you to our outgoing aldermen again, and for our continuing aldermen. We're looking forward to continuing working with you and as we move forward with our new council. I also want to recognize you, Mayor Nold, for your service to the city. So on behalf of the city, I want to thank you for your many years of devoted service to the community. Mayor Nold has served the community since 1994 and served as an alderman from 94 to 2004 and again from 07 to 2015. He was appointed as our mayor in 2015 and then elected to serve from 2016 through today. You have great knowledge and history of our community and have served on almost every council committee, I think, through the years. You served the city with great dedication and have always kept the city's interests in the forefront of all you've done. You've truly been a dedicated public servant, and your love of our community is evident in all you do. So thank you, Mayor Nold, and I want to present you a plaque on behalf of the city, which includes a gavel symbolizing your distinguished leadership of our city, and it's a token of our gratitude for your many contributions and service to the community. We wish you the best in your future. Enjoy your retirement from city service and government life. So thank you, and could we give Mayor Nold a round of applause?
You know, the Packers would like to see it, because you got the
got the gloves? I gotta hand out the gavel later, so I don't wanna get any germs in it. Any other comments from citizens? Seeing none?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I'm not a citizen.
you're
either.
close enough.
Yeah, I'm pretty close, right,
Yeah.
over here. You folks were kind enough. I'm sorry. I love this place. I love all of you. I did this when you put me right there. Derek, Tom, Charlie, you're awesome. You've done so much for this community. I'm emotional, I'm sorry. I'm so proud of you. You've done so much for this community, and thank you. That's it.
Thanks, Stan.
Thank you, Stan. That was well done, because you're going to beat me to the tears. But anyway, that's from getting, as fellow hockey players, that's from getting in the mask too long, because he's a goalie. So,
Thank you, Stan. Sarah? Reports and comments from Alderman? Go ahead, Matt.
I've just got a couple things I didn't want to ramble on with our, is this thing even working? I guess it is.
Yeah, it's working.
Okay. I wrote a couple things down because it's been a long journey with a lot of the folks. First to the mayor, this is so weird with my back turned, but I got to speak into
Go
this
to the
thing.
podium if you want.
No,
Bend your
that's
back
okay.
is to everybody, though.
To Mayor Noldwell, you and I didn't always agree on things. In fact, we had a lot of vigorous debates over the years. I respected your leadership and your willingness to listen to council. You've scheduled over the years dozens of committee of the whole meetings, and your willingness to let council in many ways determine policy under your leadership, I think was admirable and a good change. I thank you for your years of service and hope that you do something productive on your free Tuesdays. 20 years. Tom, I think I speak for most of us on the council by saying we'll miss your wit, your common sense, and your candid opinion. You've always had a finger on the pulse of the community, and for one, I'll know I'll laugh less now that you're not on council, and wish you the best of luck moving forward. Hopefully, we talk again.
yeah.
I'll see you at Wingers at some point.
When it finally opens, we'll meet in Wingers.
Yeah, you bet. If it opens. Charlie, you and I joined council together with Derek 6 years ago. We kind of were a new wave of opinions and ideas to the city. We brought a lot to the city, I think, the three of us, when we joined. And you were maybe, other than me, the most prepared person for meetings, I always thought. Your understanding of city government and the processes will be truly missed. Sitting next to you, I was always amazed at the small details you picked up that I missed, that I didn't catch, and that you would whisper into my ear and say, hey, look at line 13 on page 59. Wisdom and composure will be missed on the council, and I wish you the best of luck as well in the future. And then to Derek, you also came on with me 6 years ago, and I don't think I'll be revealing any secrets that we developed I think a long-term and true friendship while on council. Your insight, tenacity, and strength of opinion was a welcome addition to the council when we needed it the most. Your pushing of the RFP and engineering process changes should go down as one of the major improvements to the city's functioning and economic stability for years to come. Your efforts will save the city taxpayers for decades. And as you know, I'm not sentimental, and I hate these kind of goodbyes and the hollows. You did great, but in this instance, I think the city and the council will be worse off without your watchful eye. I'll miss having you on council and wish you the best of luck.
Thanks, Matt.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Lou?
I'd also like to thank Alderman Derek Zwart, Tom Stray, Charlie Shaw, and you, Mayor Nold. Your dedication to serve our community over the years has provided a foundation that will allow our community the ability to move forward on sure footing in these uncertain times. You have each left your own legacy to the community you love, having cast your votes and provided your voices to policies and projects that will remain for generations to come. This council and city appreciate the dedication you have shown in your actions to stepping up and earning the trust of your community. Everyone that serves on this body is responsible to the citizens we serve, and you've embodied that. It is with that trust and focus on our community that you leave this body to continue to serve in the format that best fits your life. Personally, I'd like to recognize that you have each helped me grow and how I look at serving our community. While we no longer serve as elected officials, you will remain my friends. On a final note, I have found a quote that I think sums your actions, each individually, up very well. Help the life of one person, and you can help the community. You've all helped the community over the years of service, and I will always be appreciative of what you've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou.
Thanks, Lou.
Karen?
Well, I didn't have anything prepared like these guys, and I'll keep it brief, but I just want to tell Mayor Nold, Charlie, Tom, and Derek, thank you so much. This has just been an amazing council, and I have learned something from each and every one of you. Charlie's preparedness, I'm going to miss Tom's sense of humor. Derek's the one that wrangled me into running for alderman. So I don't know if that's a thank you or what. And your leadership as well, Mayor. And we didn't, any of us all agree, but I loved it. I loved being in the trenches with every single one of you and the perspective that each of you brought and the way that I learned and grew as an alderman through all of you. So thank you so much, and I wish you guys all the best as you move on in your lives.
Thank you. Kevin?
And I too would like to thank Tom, Charlie, and Derek. Charlie, for your attention to detail. I was amazed, just like Matt had said, you would pick something out on line 13, page 4. As much as I would go through it, I would have probably never caught it. And I really do appreciate that. You taught me a lot, an absolute lot. Tom, you kept it light. That was really important because a lot of times it was kind of heated. We needed to have that voice of not as much reason, but just as, okay, guys, come on. This is, we got to come back a little bit now. And you were that guy, and I appreciate it. And Derek, I think we agreed on a lot of things. And I appreciated the fact that you stepped up when I really didn't know how. And you helped with the changing of some ordinances and things along those lines. And I really did appreciate that. It meant a lot to the community, something that will just go on forever. And I really do appreciate that. And Mayor, I appreciated your patience. When I came here, I was full of piss and vinegar, and I was going to change the whole world. And you smiled, and you said, okay. And then you kind of put your arm around me and said, now let me teach you. And it meant an awful lot. Your wisdom, your knowledge, and your patience, since I've known you, is outstanding. And I thank you. Absolutely. I'm hoping that when I see you in the streets, you can consider me a friend. I have the utmost respect. I would literally stand up and give you a hug right now, but can't do that.
Give an elbow.
Give you an elbow a little later. But I am truly going to miss you. Absolutely.
Any other comments? Charlie?
First of all, I want to thank the citizens of District 4 for voting. Second, I want to thank all the city employees, every one of them, all the professionalism and efficiency, the way they go about doing their jobs every day. Third, I'd like to thank Diane Gard, Sarah, Diane, all the department heads for letting me come in and ask stupid questions. Made it easier for me to make the decisions I had to make. So thank you guys all very much. Mayor, I want to thank you for your leadership, friendship, all your years of service. Quite an inspiration, thank you. Lastly, I want to thank all the past and present council members just for putting up with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'll go with Tom first.
You know, 7 years ago, sounds like Abe Lincoln, doesn't it? Well, no, wait a minute, that's 4, yeah, it was 7 years ago. Stand up, yeah. I was working a funeral. I work part-time over at Schmidt Bartell Funeral. And unfortunately, I was working the funeral of Ellie Mae Cochran, who used to sit in this spot right here for about 22 years. And after the funeral, a bunch of the rowdies from around town here that I've known for a long, long time were having a little get-together over at that time it was the German bar. It's AJ's over here now, so they conned me into coming over. Well, about 5 or 6 big oompas of German beer later, they start talking some really nonsense, like, you ought to run for mayor. You ought to take over a job. And so a couple more Jägermeisters came along, and I said, well, yeah, maybe I'll do that. Well, then now you have to run the restaurant, because that, if you people that don't know what a restaurant is, it's where the the French pastry place, goes to show you how much respect I have for those frogs. And anyway, so that's how the journey began. I came in there, and it was they didn't know if they were going to have a special election or an appointment or what it was going to be. Well, there were 7 of us that sat out here in the little room, and we had to come up from then the council and speak your willers of why you want to be an alderman. And I hadn't had a clue what was going to go on here, you know. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed when it comes to a lot of the stuff that was around here. And so, shocked to me, Diane came out and says, Tom, you're it. I go, what? So I wasn't the chosen one. There were 2 other people there. When then the mayor and the city attorney just shook at their head and going, what? So that's what they got, was me. So, you know, and I didn't a lot about politics. Well, I ran for school board. Thank goodness I lost on that one by 10 votes only. But then I thought to myself, well, what did I learn in citizenship back when I was in high school? And guess who my teacher was? Richard Whalen, the mayor's husband. So I'm thinking to myself, go back and think of what you learned about, you know, legislation and all the other stuff. And I go to myself, I think he flunked me. You know, so I thought, what the heck's going on here? But, you know, I learned and sat back. And the first couple of weeks were hard because there were some big time things that were coming out, new apartments, lawsuits, all the other stuff. And I just sat here like, ooh, you know, what did I get into? But that's how I started into that. And, you know, the staff has been wonderful, all of them. It's just amazing. On Monday mornings, I'll miss those because I used to go down to the girls downstairs there, and I'd come in and not that I have any kind of a personality or anything like that, but I cheer them up on Monday because it's always the worst day of the week for them. Hey, to me, it's the best day of the week. I'm up and going. I said I go downhill about Wednesday or Thursday, and I'm going to miss, you know, going to the staff guys and out to the sewage plant, learning about this, learning about that, going around Christmas time, giving out my little Christmas envelopes. Only 80 proof. So, you know, and I'm going to miss all these guys behind me. You know, it was a wonderful experience. I learned a lot about attorneys, you know, my goalie friend over here, and the mayor back there. I've known him for a long, long time, and the job that he's done. You know, once in a while, you know, we'd have a little talk on the side. And, you know, that's the way I look at this whole thing, you know. I think I did a pretty good job. I tried to get here as much as I could. I missed a couple times because of back surgeries, and one time I got yelled at for coming when I wasn't supposed to be here, but that was my job. So all you new aldermen, you know, that's kind of what you have to do. And when you get phone calls at 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock, not to bail out people from the bars, but you're gonna get all kinds of calls, complaining about the streetlights aren't on, or this isn't on, and if you get some calls from other districts, answer those too, because I got a lot of them, I guess they must have thought that was the mother hen of the council, or something, but it's, that's very important. And I want to also thank all my first district people that put up with me for 7 years. Like I said, I answered as much as I possibly could, and if I didn't know any answers to what was going on, I'd go down and talk to Sarah, who, it was a pleasure for me to be on that committee to vote her in, the job she's got today. So this summer, we're gonna go to Lake Mills, and when the thing is over, we're gonna sit up at the Tyrannina Brew Pub. So after that, thanks a lot. It's been a fun time, and I'll be around. I'm getting a little rounder because I'm not doing too much. Although I am walking, I'm making sure that up in the new thing that you're going to vote in today is cleaned up for all the beer cans and everything else that are laying around the roads. So I'll charge you later, Mike. So thank you again, everyone.
Thank you, Tom. Derek?
Tough act to follow, for
Yeah.
sure. But I'd like to thank all the citizens from District 1 who entrusted me and voted for me last few years. And also like to thank everybody who's run, winners or losers, for these different positions. I think it's great that we have people stepping up to take over for us. I'd like to thank all of the staff, department heads. I know I've asked a lot of questions and asked for a lot of information. You guys have been always willing to dig and get as far as I want to go to find things. I think that's important. I want to thank Diane in particular for all the information she's given me as well, and keeping track of things and my open records requests. I appreciate that. I'd like to thank my family for me being away many nights, Tuesdays in particular. There are a lot of frozen pizzas at my house that went down on Tuesdays for sure. I'd like to thank Alex for being here and helping us out with some of the information that we wanted to get out to the public. He has to be here as well, and Ryan was here before him. I think it's important that the media gets the information out to the public because not everybody can attend. And I'd like to thank everybody that I've served with because I've had a great time debating things. I think this council has been very good about debating things thoroughly, but not taking anything personally and letting the chips fall for where they may. And that was, it was really nice to be part of this, and I'm gonna miss it. I'm gonna miss all the camaraderie, really, the discussions and the jokes, particularly Tomer. Charlie, I'm gonna miss you too. Hopefully you have something going on that's fun to do and you won't miss out too much on this. Mayor Nold, thank you so much for your 20-plus years of service. Really, really unbelievable. Good job, and I hope that you have lots of good things planned as well, because I know you're going to have some extra time on your hands.
Yep.
That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thanks, Derek. Okay, reports and comments from the mayor.
3 minutes.
I got a little longer than that.
I can leave.
Okay, first off,
Out of here by midnight, guys.
no, it won't take that long. First off, I want to thank Stu Weingard for the use of the OK Mart on Election Day. He stepped up when we needed a spot to have the election so we could get everybody in one spot with limited poll workers, and it worked wonderful. The building looked fantastic, and I think it worked very, very well. So I just want to thank Stu for offering that at no cost and letting us utilize that facility to complete the election that we needed to do. So now getting into history. It was the fall of 1993, and I decided that we had just built a house a few years earlier. All my sons were born, and I always like to have something to do. I've always worked multiple jobs, either driving truck or tending bar or doing whatever. So I wanted to, and I've always been interested in politics. And my father-in-law had been an alderman back in the 70s. So I decided to run for office. And this was in the fall of 93. The population of the city was about 11,500. Today, or last year, it was 17,212. It's a 50% increase since I've started. The value of the city was around $650 million. Today, it's 2.5 billion. That's how much we've grown in the past 25, 26 years. The city's was approximately 9 square miles. Currently, it's about 12 and a half square miles. So it's gotten, a third bigger than what it was. Just in our roadways, and the only stats I have are from 2002 to 2020, went from 58 to 92 miles. So we've added a lot of things without adding a lot of staff to take care of it, and really not having to change the tax rate that much. So we've done an awful lot with what we have. During that time, I've worked with 6 different mayors, 30 different aldermen. Some of the aldermen, like Tom had mentioned, when I started in 94, 3 new aldermen came on, myself, Laura Mae Cochran, and Joe Maroney. Unfortunately, Laura Mae died while serving the city. Joe is still the president of the Park and Rec Board. And myself. Other aldermen that I've served with that had passed away, Joe Snyder, who sat where Matt sits, passed away while in office. Another alderman, Jack Bubb, when Bubb Park is over by Heritage Heights, he also sat in that same chair, so nothing to think about, but the chair hasn't been that lucky. And one other person I wanted to mention, Eddie Howlitz was another one that served. He sat where Lou sits, and he passed away a few years back, and he had served for a number of years. Charlie's father-in-law, Tom Fody, served for a long time and served as mayor for 6 years. One other person and besides all the aldermen that are here, I mean, and I don't want to pick anybody out, but one alderman that I do want to pick out is John Gross. He was here when I started, and he's still serving on the Plan Commission. So John has dedicated a lot of his life to this city. As Sarah mentioned, I was a member of pretty much every committee. The only one I don't think I was on was the Fire and Police Commission, and I was never on the Library Board. But other than that, I think I was on pretty much everything that we've had. As far as city staff, I've worked with 3 different administrators. Dick Mercier was the first one when I started, Diane Gard, and of course Sarah, and we'll talk a little bit more about Sarah later. City attorneys, Bill Chapman. He was here for forever. And Bill decided to retire a few years back, and we had the fortunate effort to have Stan available to do this. And we had the pleasure of appointing Stan as our city attorney. And I know that's a job that he wanted, and it's a job that we wanted him to have. And Stan's been fantastic through this whole process. All the department heads, Diane Conan, who's our clerk and has basically provided me with all the information that I need. Jason, the planner, does a fantastic job. Bob, whenever I have presentations to make, I talk to Bob because he helps me put them together. In fact, he puts them together and I kind of read them. Joe Pickard in the utilities. Lori, their financial director, does a fantastic job, and the new alderman and the mayor work with Lori because she'll give you the financial information. Sometimes I don't understand what she's talking about, but she's pretty good at it. Chief Berger, for the police department and the as head of public safety, does a fantastic job. Craig in Park and Rec, we just brought him in last year, replaced John Kelleher, who was here for a long time, and Craig is doing a fantastic job. Kevin in wastewater had to replace Tom Steinbach, who is basically a legend in the community and started the watershed program, which Kevin is continuing, and he's done a fantastic job. Betsy at the library does a great job. And there's 2 other ones, and one isn't really an employee, but he's been here longer than I have, Stan Sugden, our city engineer. He was here when I started. He was appointed, I think, by Maureen, or maybe it was Floss. I can't remember. But he's been available, and he knows a lot about this city's inner workings. And then, of course, there's Mark Fry, who's, he started as a water tech, but he's been here, he's worked through things. I come here on Sundays, and Mark's here. He works as much as he has to, does a fantastic job. To go through some of the things that we've done since I've been mayor. We started off with a bang because I remember when I first started, and I think Matt and I, we went to a lawsuit meeting that next day. Mediation. But things that we've accomplished in the 5 years: Fowler Lake Village, the park on Lac LaBelle, Eagles Landing. Let me get to my next page here. Fleet Farm. All those were in progress at the same time. There's basically $100 million worth of construction going on at one time within a year. Newer projects, Towner Crest up on Lisbon Road, senior housing, fantastic thing, and if people have driven by there, it fits well with that area. The Evans Senior Project at the old YMCA, they're working on that as we speak. Something that we just approved, and I'm looking very forward to seeing it done, is the Diamond Club Entertainment Baseball and Training Facility. I think that would be a huge addition to that end of town and provide the community with recreation activities and a very family-oriented place to go for entertainment. The Mandel Group, Ian's here tonight to get final approvals or close to final approvals on a very upscale apartment complex. And I think the biggest thing that the mayor and the council will have to work on, one of the bigger things, is the Olympia Fields project. Trying to get Olympia redeveloped. I had hoped to have seen some progress on that over the last 25 years. Maybe you'll have better luck than I had. Those are private projects. City projects that we've done in the Northeast Corridor by Meadowview School. Cooperation between the city, school district, the church, the developer, the landowner. Project came together from start to finish for the infrastructure within 11 months. It saved everybody money and time, and it turned out to be a fantastic project with the addition of a huge park for us. One of the more challenging things we took on when we first started was the expansion of the Village Green. Very controversial. There was a building in the middle. We had to take it down. Do we do it or don't we? And I think when we did it, it opened that area up and provided a space, a gathering spot for many, many things, many events. The parking campus that we worked on with First Bank provided the needed parking we needed on that end of town. The Boardwalk project with the Economic Area Foundation, that has turned out to be a hub for activities. And these are all things we've done, most of this group, over the last 5 years. Probably, I think one of the biggest things we've done, and it was a challenge and it was a controversial project, was the public safety building. I walked through it the other day, about last week, and they're still on track to get this thing done in August, September timeframe. It's amazing. You think the building is so big, but by the time they get everything broken up, there really isn't that much room left. And it looks really well. We took our fire department and we had a city fire department for I don't know how many years, and we went with what's called the Western Lakes Fire District, where we're a member of it, we're the majority member of it, but we got 24/7 paramedic coverage. We have coverage all over. We have fire stations, and it's provided us with the service that we need. Fantastic. One other thing that was one of my pet projects, and I was very glad to see it started, was the Thackeray Trail extension. To get that done, though, we have to rebuild the existing portion of it, and I think that's going to be very important to the people that live in that area to provide a modern, state-of-the-art road without flooding and falling apart. And it needs to get done, and I think it should be good through next year. Some of the events we brought to town, the Holiday Train, draws thousands of people. We had 3 years on it. This will be the 4th year. Hopefully these events will still go on with the conditions we're in now, but the Holiday Train was a very big event. The tree lighting ceremony at the beginning of the parade, I think that's a big plus for everybody. The expansion of the German Christmas market, once we expanded the Village Green, they were able to bring in a much bigger tent and draw many more people. All of the Doughboy events, all of the parades, the art festival isn't just a festival, it's an entire week now. Our sister city relationship is expanded with our sister city in Dietzenbach. And of course, outside the building on the right side over here is our Wizard of Oz Plaza. it is a big attraction for people. Every time I walk by, there's people taking pictures, and it's a wonderful thing to have. Now, as I finish up here, my thank yous. First, thank the residents, those that supported me, those that put up with me. We didn't always do things that they wanted, but I think we did what we could for the benefit of the city, and we did a good job. City staff, not just the department heads, but all the city staff, the clerical staff, the guys that plow snow, work in the sewer plant, the DPW workers, the park and rec guys, everybody, and I'm not skipping anybody, but everybody that works in the city does a fantastic job. The administrators, like I said, I started with Diane Gard, she retired, and we had the option, we had to look for a replacement. Well, our replacement was already here, we didn't have to look really far. And Sarah's done a fantastic job, and Bob, depend on Sarah. She will lead you the right way. Bill Chapman is a legend as far as city attorneys go. He was here for as long as I can remember. When I started, he was here. He got to the point where he had told me that he would retire if I was the mayor so that he could let me appoint the new one. And we interviewed people, but again, that really wasn't a lot of questions involved because Stan was our choice from the beginning. And Stan's done a fantastic job, and we're lucky to have him and his firm. Again, all the department heads, Diane, I depended on you for everything. Everybody else I mentioned earlier, and they've all done fantastic jobs. One key supporter who was always on my side, sends me things on holidays, on Easter, on just out of the blue, wants to talk about things, Jim O'Connor. I think a lot of people know who Jim is. He has the car dealership down the street. Fantastic guy. Now is when it gets hard. I want to thank my kids. All the missed events over the last 25 years. When you have three sons playing sports at the same time with two parents, someone's going to miss something. And then when I had a meeting, it was very difficult. One of the things that was kind of nice when I first started, and I'm not sure if it still goes on, but I'm assuming it does. They expected to see a police officer every Friday delivering papers. And it was always fun when the kids were playing and friends were outside and the squad car would pull up. And they're all wondering what they did wrong. And it was always nice, and they were always very respectful. And we missed a lot of things. Now I have to thank my wife. We can now plan vacation at any time. We don't have to wait for the end of the month like we did for the last 26 years. We don't have to have interrupted dinners because of a meeting, or have to eat early or eat late. I think Tom mentioned this, the calls, the emails, the text messages at all hours. Most of those came from Jim Daly, but
What a beauty.
just things that happen, if something happened, if something went wrong. I get some calls from Stan now every once in a while about certain things, and Sarah's always, with what I do, this being a part-time position, I probably in touch with Sarah at least once a day by text message or phone. Everybody here that's sitting up here knows this isn't a part-time job. You act as a part-time position, but you're mayor 24/7. You're an alderman 24/7. It's not a part-time job. So it's been an enjoyable 26 years. I think we've done some good things, and it's time to say goodbye. It's been a pleasure working with every one of you, and with all the citizens and the residents of the city. I'm going to miss it, but thanks a lot.
Mayor, for a minute there, I thought you were Donald Trump. You were saying outstanding job on everybody and stuff like that. So,
I meant it, though.
I know you meant- and I think all you new aldermen, you know, he talked about Thackeray Trail because we've got several streets named after mayors. I think you ought to make that extension Knowles Way. Think about it.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, my last official duty. I need a motion to adjourn, sign, die.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
The second, all in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. There's one little more ceremony here. Time I pass the gavel off to our new mayor. Congratulations, Bob.
Thank you.
It's all yours.
Big shoes to fill.
You will
I'll do my best.
You will do a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Good luck, man. Thank you. As soon as this whole pandemic thing is, I'm coming on to you. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Nice sign in front of your house.
Yeah.
we're going to quickly wipe down the stations.
Yeah, noticed that on the way.
Put that up all the time.
Oh, I'm sorry. The council, Mayor Nold, the council that you've been serving with, they would like to get a picture with you.
Okay.
So I don't know how you can kind of space to kind of stand or back here, but, so Charlie, Lou, Karen, Tom, Derek, Matt,
Alex, what do you think?
Kevin,
Against the whiteboard?
Andy.
Here?
If you know, kind, somebody stand on top of the ledge, but be careful you don't, there's cords, please. Excuse me, Tom, let me get out of your way. Thank you, Alex, appreciate that.
Back up, Mayor.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, ready? Like, drop over.
Mike, is this in your way?
Should we put some else on top?
Or more on top? Well, Derek, you gotta.
You're good. All right. 3, 2, 1. Step one, step this way. 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Congrats, guys.
Thank you all.
Yeah, we wanted to do that a couple meetings ago.
I know, I know.
Tom?
That way. I'll stop in when it's all,
When it's all over.
Bring them donuts.
So we just need a couple of minutes to get
I got
this
some
ready.
too. I stopped and got you some IPAs. Make sure the meeting moves along.
We have a minute?
so let's talk to the boss.
Give us like 30 seconds, a minute?
Yeah, we have to, because I gotta wipe this down. I gotta wipe down the table too. Mark, did you get that table? Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you, thank you.
Back.
I brought some.
Oh, okay. Back up. So we got, we didn't wipe your spot yet. No, I gotta wipe your spot. Sorry. From the other.
Yeah.
How's the husband's business, Diane?
Busy, he said, how doggone busy he is.
That's awesome.
Are you busy?
Well, since our illustrious leader added a month, my world, this week, my world has flipped. Yeah.
For the good?
No, not at all.
Oh, no.
Uh-uh.
Oh,
No. And it's fine, we've been strong all the way through, but
Did you? Oh, okay.
right. And absolutely. But I'm all of 80% down from phone calls or more. And I'm actually, this is the first week I'm going, we're gonna make this week, but
I'm a schlub.
absolutely.
So he has that,
Awesome.
but
Good socks today. What's the deal? Are you sick? So where are the blinds? I saw your socks. I go, oh, God bless you.
Once things settle.
No, I don't have these shoes.
Now you can get out.
I love that.
Yeah. What is this?
Right, right.
because I know.
Well, and I think that's what happened on my end, like, tax returns and stimulus came, and people are ready to do stuff, and then Evers went, no, we're gonna be closed for another month. So they went, oh,
Oh, no.
I don't want you to spend, right?
Yeah, you know.
So, yeah, because his is.
I'll
not
never
our
talk to you
business.
again.
no, but that's awesome that you're strong,
Yeah,
that,
but
that's cool.
it's just not.
No, that's,
Well, I'll tell him we chatted. We have, everything is,
mhm.
Don't retire, I'll do the same thing.
I'm not retiring.
when I give you your oath, Alex is gonna.
I'm not. If you guys can put up with this, I'm in.
Should have got a picture of the gavel being cast. Oh, I didn't wipe it down.
I promise I'll give you the wrong answers.
Weirder than you thought it would be, huh?
Probably longer
Longer than you thought it would be?
I was just telling you,
I mean,
I don't know you yet.
it was actually kind of a refreshing.
Hasn't been in the
I've
trenches
sat
yet.
through a lot of these. that,
He hasn't been in the trenches yet.
So,
so, okay, so,
people act
and
like
then after we
professionals.
do that, and like I said, I'm gonna ask the 4 aldermen to stand and take
Sign
their
for
oath.
you somewhere.
And then, once that is done, I'm gonna give the appointments to them quick, hand them their appointments.
So we gotta catch up.
Then you can call the meeting to order and start it, and I'll do roll call, you know, and do all.
Should have had your
Yeah.
kid make that sign.
So as soon as they all get back in here,
No.
Check your email, we'll get some dates on.
gotta make sure we got Matt here, we got John.
Johnny Carson.
Yeah, those are all here, but I wanna make Karen's here.
Shit out of there, dude.
I think,
Serving with you.
I think they're all here, right?
I can tell you this, he's the
Okay,
reason I
so
brought
you
out
tell me
the
when you want me
stroller
to
earlier.
tell them to please take places.
And he's got what, 250,000?
Right. More aerodynamic.
It's brand new,
First
it's
do
2010.
Mayor Magnus swear him in,
If it can handle
and then I'm
him,
gonna have
I'm
the
buying.
Chaz, Matt, and John actually just stand at their
You are
spots.
actually now. You are.
So,
But I
stay
think
right
I
here,
am the second
and Bob will,
oldest.
so we're kind of
puts a
a
plow
little
on
bit
it,
of
I mean,
space.
like,
Um,
even your bride, like, they use they're not
6 months, that's it.
possessions, they're utilitarian,
I
like,
want, you can go
it's
there.
for a purpose, right? And
Okay.
if that truck can handle what he puts it through, I'm sold.
Oh, okay.
So, okay, you want me to?
Yeah, why don't we get
Okay.
everybody going?
Excuse me, everyone, if we could all either take seats or get in our places, we want to begin the ceremonial swearing in.
Swearing of.
Yeah. So,
Just preparing.
okay, so are there name tags put up? Okay, oh, Mayor forgot his stuff. He was gonna grab it. Okay, well, we'll get it to him. Okay. So we are now gonna do the ceremonial swearing in, and I'm gonna start with Mayor Magnus. Oh, okay, thank you. Solemnly swear to support the city of Oconomowoc. God.
I do.
Here's your certificate of election. Okay, I would ask Matt Mulder, Chaz Shellpepper, Matt Rosick, and John Zaffel to please stand at your stations. And we're gonna swear you in there, okay? So if you would all raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and faithfully discharge the duties to the office to which you've been elected, and that is Alderman District 1, Matt Mulder, Alderman District 2, Charles Shellpepper, known as Chaz, Alderman District 3, Matt Rosick, Alderman District 4, John Zaffel, to the best of your ability, so help you God. Congratulations, gentlemen. And I'm going to give you a certificate of election. I'm going to swing by that way. I'll swing by that side. All right. You're officially sworn in, and you may take your seats.
We are ready. And I've been fading it in.
Before we get started, wow, those are some big shoes to fill. I will do my best to serve you as the alderperson in our community, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to working with everybody here. Quite an incredible ceremony, and the work that people have done currently on the council, and those folks that have left and departed earlier today. So again, thank you, and I'm here for you as well. I'd like to call to order the City of Oconomowoc Common Council meeting Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. Has appropriate meeting notification been presented?
Yes, Your Honor, it has.
Please call roll.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Here.
Alderman Mulder.
Here.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Here.
Alderman Kavieski.
Here.
Alderman Rogers.
Here.
Alderman Rosick. Alderman Zaffel. Alderman Ellis.
Yep.
Quorum.
We have a quorum. Great. Let's move on to item 3 in the agenda, approval of meeting minutes. Minutes from March 3rd, 2020.
Move to approve the minutes of March 3rd, 2020.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Our next agenda item are comments or suggestions from citizens. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make any comments? If none, then we'll move on. Thank you. Our 5th agenda item is a consent agenda, which encompasses a group of lists here from A to F on your agenda. They are to be considered in one motion, but a council member may pull out a request to have one removed to address at one motion.
Yeah, Mayor,
Mayor, if I may suggest that you call on a member with regard to the March voucher report, a member of the committee that was on the committee prior to this new council being put into place, and I would suggest Alderman Rozek as the individual to be the individual to deal with that issue, and I'd suggest you take that out of order and you agree to all the others unless there's an alderman that wants to pull that anything else off.
Sounds good. Would anyone like to make a motion?
yeah, I'll just move to pull out the March voucher report, item E, under item 5.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
We'll remove item E. Let's move forward on the other consent agenda items. Any comments or motions for that?
Do we want to remove the treasury report for March 20th, since we're moving the March voucher report out and put those together?
You don't have a treasurer here to deal with it, so.
All right.
Any motions on the floor?
I'd like to make a motion to I did
approve
have
the
some
consent
questions
agenda.
about the treasury
Approve the
report.
consent agenda with regard to everything except for E.
I have a question about the treasury report. I'm wondering if I can pull that out.
Of course.
I'd like to make a motion to pull that out then.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then will we remove both item E and item F and pull those out separately? Let's move back to the consent agenda for items A, B, C, and D.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda items A, B, C, and D under item number 5.
Second.
Oh,
Did someone second? Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
And that passes. Let's come back then to pull out and start with item E, the March voucher report. Alderman Rozak, can you give us an update on that, please?
Sure. So I note that there was no finance committee meeting, and the previous finance committee in its entirety is no longer here. And I think Karen and I are the only remaining members of the finance committee. I have reviewed the vouchers and the treasury report. I think we should approve the vouchers, although I do have some questions that I think need to be addressed before we move on. And I do have some questions, and then I'll entertain anything else unless Mayor, you want me to move into a couple of questions I have. Is Lori even here? Can you answer some of these questions possibly, Sarah? Possibly, Okay. Yeah, I do have a few questions quick on the vouchers. Without objection, Mayor?
Without objection.
On page 30, so if we go into the packet, what would be packet page 30 or page 3 of 21 of the voucher report, there's 2 invoices here to Doberstein Law Firm, LLC. Yeah, now Stan all of a sudden got real interested in that. Do we know what that's for? Okay. The next one is Giles, on the same page towards the bottom, 10485, Giles Engineering Associates, Inc., Village Green Expansion, about $6,825. Do we know what that's for? Yeah.
It's Giles.
Giles, I'm sorry.
So when we were demoing the buildings for the Village Green, we came across some buried fuel tanks. One of them was leaking, so we've spent the last few years monitoring and looking to close out that site, and Giles was our consultant for that.
Perfect. Mark, you can stay up here because I think the next couple ones are probably right in your wheelhouse, if you don't mind. Page 5, which is 32 of the packet, item number 10778. It's a membership for the League of Municipalities for you. I don't necessarily have a problem. Well, I have other functional problems with the League of Municipalities, but isn't Diane also a member of this? How many people are members of the League of Municipalities?
The city is a member of the League
Okay. Okay, so not Mark by him. I mean, we're not paying like a fee for every single department head, are we? No. Okay, it's one fee. Okay, that's good. The next one, I'm going to skip over some of these because these are a little bit more esoteric and just maybe ask Lori at a later point. But on page 8 of 21, we have a variety of Rupert Melke payments in here. Silver Lake Trails, Olympia Fields, 2020 Streets. So Mark, this is perfect for you again. Was Rupert Melke retained by the CDA to review the Olympia Fields project? Or are they doing that as city
engineer.
City engineer? But we have separate, so it goes into a separate fund because Olympia Fields, any work they do is going to be charged back to them, presumably? Because there's a lot in here for Olympia Fields already.
Gonna go into the.
Sorry, I tried to combine it all into
No,
one
I
here real
appreciate
quick.
that. As far as the Rupert Milky charges for the Olympia Fields project, as you know, we've been working with the developer on plans and things. So what we're doing with the engineering, any attorney's fees, is we're tracking those, and they will be part of a TIF district someday if one is created. In addition, we're in the process of potentially working on the pre-development agreement, and these are items that we would be discussing with the developer as well.
But I guess I'll still move to approve the vouchers today, but I'd like more explanation on these kind of charges. Because right now, we're looking at $7,400 for Olympia Fields for a project that was already approved for zoning a year and a half ago. And now we're doing more engineering that I'm assuming we're paying, right? I mean, they're in the vouchers, so we paid this work.
Yes.
And someday, hopefully, we'll get it back, if a TIF is created. But if a TIF's not created, how do we get that money back, or does the city eat that?
Right, and we've had some preliminary discussions with the developer about that, so our position would be that if the TIF isn't created, we would be asking to be reimbursed, but we haven't, you're in this preliminary stage, and we don't have that pre-development agreement yet.
Mr.
So-
Rozak, we're nearly completed with that agreement. It will be in front of you very soon.
Okay.
And it will be a reimbursement agreement. And with regard to this Doberstein Law Firm, it references a 17 CV 281 on CCAP.
Yeah, Lori texted me that those are child support payments.
Oh, I see, okay. That's fine.
Yep.
I might have asked that like 6
Yeah.
years ago. So if the TIF isn't get approved, though, all we can do is ask for this money back in the Olympia Field design planning that Recruit Melke is performing. Under what authority are they performing that work right now? Just,
As city engineer, city staff is coming together to work on this development overall, that they're another one of our staff members essentially that is working on pulling together the
It's like
preliminary
my
plans.
charges on that.
Right.
If it falls through, they'll have to pay you back for my charges.
okay. And the only, I guess I'm asking because I try to go through these things sometimes pretty carefully. We also have other charges for city engineer, for the month, for March, $2,950. So there's $2,950 and $6,800 for Olympia Fields. They're obviously separate functions somehow.
Yeah, they're good about detailing what the different aspects of their work is so that we can track it and charge it back if appropriate. And same with, just like Attorney Riffle does with his work, they're tracking it, they're invoicing us for the different projects so that if we have the ability to charge that back and recover that cost, that we have that detail to do so.
Did we, I guess, and I'm not going to belabor this now. I think we need to go into greater detail on this. But when we approved moving forward with, we didn't really approve anything moving forward with Olympia Fields other than just reaching out to them. But now we're $7,000 in.
Actually, that's not true.
Yeah.
You, as a council, have directed staff to work forward on this. Otherwise, I would not have done one thing.
And that includes.
As a
and-
council.
Yeah, and that includes expending, engineering fees?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can't bring you information unless we do some work that's preparatory to that. And we're doing our best to make sure that the developer, if it all falls apart, will have to pay back the city every single penny.
Right, but right now, if it falls apart and there's no TIF, there's no way for us to force them to pay us back.
There is an agreement that will come to you prior to the time that you go any steps forward, and it will be within the next month. And yes, you will be able to charge them back under the terms of that agreement.
Alderman
For
Kavieski?
protecting
Yeah.
the city.
I understand. Well, look, I think, yeah.
Alderman Kavieski?
Matt, there was approval by council during committee of the whole after the presentation by the Weingart Partners. That approval gave the authority to expend some dollars to get us to a point where we had the additional information that we could determine what that frontage piece would look like, potentially using eminent domain for that drive circle and all that other fun stuff. That's when that occurred for the expenditures. It was a while ago now, but that's when that happened.
Yeah, thanks, Lou, but I disagree. I don't think we authorized anybody to expend engineering funds through a third party for a developer that's asking for money from us without an agreement to pay us back. That's what I think we're missing here. So I have no other questions on the vouchers at this time. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
do you want to go, Alderman Ellis? Go ahead.
I have a question in reference to page 33. 3 down from the bottom, it's landscaping services for $6,825. Is that for the month? Or is that, what is that check for?
I'm trying to find it. I'd have to look for certain as to what the time period was for that. Mark, that's MJS Landscaping for Paps Farms mowing. I think that's a stormwater district. That's a Paps Farms stormwater district expense. The city of Oconomowoc does the bookkeeping for the Paps Farms Joint Stormwater District. So this is actually a district expense that has run through our accounts payable process and is paid for by the district.
Okay. Why is it that we're using outside vendors instead of using ourselves?
Again, it's a district function, and so they hired it was their decision to hire contractors to do the stormwater pond maintenance. And in this case, mowing is a part of that with the regional stormwater ponds that are owned by the district.
Doesn't answer my question. Why did they use outside vendors instead of?
It's not, we're not their
We
staff.
don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like it's a separate governing board and a separate entity per se. So it's our staff is not their staff. They contract out the services.
Alderman Shell Pepper?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a general question. This would probably be better for Lori as well, but just, my first time going through really in depth on the council in the voucher report, just looking at the various per diems that we're spending. So I see that we sent 4 different people to the, DNR annual conference. And I think it's just a general question on, why do we send 4 people? What's the criteria that we determined to, to send individuals to the conferences? What are the objective deliverables that we're looking for when we send them? I don't know if that's something you'd be able to answer.
It's a general question. Each conference or seminar that employees are going to, the request goes through the department head and then is approved by me. Those functions can be for various things. It could be a licensing matter. If it's a DNR seminar, it could very well be a licensing matter. It could just be continuing education credits that are needed, a specific area of training that we're looking to, enhance the skill set of our workforce. So it varies depending on the particular individual request that's coming through, but those do go through the department heads and me. And overall.
So do we have a set criteria, like an objective? This is what needs to be, I guess, delivered if they're attending?
No, there's no set policy objective. Those are worked with between the department head and the employee as to when they make their request and decide whether they want to proceed to go through that. And then again, those are coming up to me, and we're making sure that those are within our training and travel budget allowances that the council has approved as part of the budget process.
Okay, and I just think, obviously I'm new, and one of the things that, while I was out talking to many people that live across District 2, they were concerned about fiscal responsibility and making sure that the city is being responsible, with the way that we spend our money. And so I guess when you look through this and you see, 4 people going to the same conference, and you just wonder if there is an actual certification that's involved with it or not. So, and that's why I'm bringing it up, just a general question. Another piece that I had on the voucher, it was also on page 29 of the packet, page 2 of the voucher report, was the public safety facility construction. I don't know if that's something Mark would better off answering, or if you would, but just in general, I see it's a $315,000 charge. Do we know what it was specifically was for?
It's our contract for the construction of the public safety facility, so it would be a progress payment based on the work that they have performed to date. So we have a contract amount for the work that is there, and as they make progress, they submit their payment for work done, and then we make a payment towards that contract amount.
Okay. And I think that's the public safety facility construction. Before the COVID crisis came, I think that's going to be one of the key things that the council has to focus on over the next few months, is really providing that oversight, making sure that the funds are being spent properly. I think the last council meeting that we had was really a warning, kind of a warning signal in some ways, that we had these planters being put in, that had been something that had been discussed about taking them out. They were put back in. It wasn't really brought to light that they were being put in. And so I think the council is going to need to be very diligent about putting the time in to make sure that we're appropriately spending money and that we're staying on top of it on behalf of the citizens. And
Yeah.
I think it's really important.
And you'll see as, in the coming time, as we make progress payments on the public safety facility project specifically, we are doing reports back to the council on the progress of the project and how it's tracking. I do think the last progress payment, we weren't able to do that because we were in the middle of dealing with the election process. So all the Mark is the one that usually puts that together, and he was helping us on the election and getting resituated there. So we'll be making another report to the council soon on the progress of that project. But it is going well, and it's on schedule, so you'll see some of that coming through with some reports back to you, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Alderman Ellis.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I guess, make a statement in reference to what I had mentioned before is on page 33. There's other areas also I've noticed where we've farmed out some things where I believe that we can actually handle them. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be more fiscal responsible for us to do it, especially at this time. When we go into budget, which will be a few months from now, I'd really like to have that ability to really start the process of pulling some of this stuff out. I mean, just this alone, we found $7,000. I think we can go ahead and put into, or back into the city in another way. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman, it's not our money. We have a contract with with that particular district that they run it through. It's just a pass-through. It's not our money.
What do you?
Currently, we're on consent agenda item E.
I'm just trying to answer the question. It's a pass-through. Right? That landscaping
Yes,
thing
the-
is a
The
pass-through. It's
MJS
not our
landscaping,
money.
it is a pass-through, yep.
We don't have anything to do with it, other than we pay it, they pay us back.
Can I?
Yes.
Just
Alderman.
briefly, just for your, that's where I live, obviously. The Pabst Farm Joint Stormwater District is both City of Economowoc and, I believe, Village of Summit.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's multiple districts, it's multiple jurisdictions. They can hire whoever they want. We pay our portion of it. And they're not just mowing, they're also grading the bottom of the dry beds and doing other prep work. And they do that a couple times a year, so I think that's where that money's coming from. And those guys do a good job out there, just FYI.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
So currently, we have agenda item, consent item 5E. Is there any motion or is there any action anyone would like to take, or would you like this tabled?
I'll move to approve the vouchers.
Second.
Sorry, I didn't hear who said second. Oh, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We'll move on to number 5, consent agenda item number F, Treasurer's Report, March 2020. Alderman Ellis.
I just have a question. Sarah, as far as the rec department is concerned, what's our note on the rec department right now? How much do we owe on that still?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Could you
As
say
far
that
as
again?
the rec department is concerned, how much of a note do we still have on that?
Oh, what is our outstanding?
Mm-hmm.
It's like 3.5.
Yeah,
million.
it's somewhere in the 3 to 4 million.
And when, what is our timeline on that?
30.
Must be 20,
2030-ish.
yeah, 20, it's got, yeah, 20, you're right, Matt, probably around 2030 that
Yep.
is paid off.
Okay. Go ahead.
Going into budget, at some point, I'd like to begin the process of becoming more aggressive with paying that down because of the fact that we do have the police station that we're going to be having to do something with as far as financially is concerned. So I'd really like to at some point, if you guys can put your heads together and see if we can't aggressively pay this off sooner than 2030 so that we can be a little more fiscally responsible with the police station. I'd appreciate that. My next question is in reference to March interest. I just don't know, and I'm asking, okay? It looks like we have minus $8,105.12. What, is that just, what is that?
It's one of our investment holdings. It's a longer term portfolio, so it's an unrealized loss
Oh, okay.
in this market period. But we hold it to maturity, so when the market bounces back, that'll come back. So it's just an unrealized loss at this point.
So it's fluctuating, it's
Yeah.
going up, down, sideways and everything. Okay, thank you.
Any further comments on the treasurer's report? Any action to be taken?
Move
I'd like to
approve
make a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Let's move on to our sixth item in the Plan Commission. We'd like to have Jason Gallo, our city planner and zoning administrator, fill us in and update and ask questions with regard to the three items in that agenda item. Mr. Gallo.
Sure. The first item, maybe, do you want to get it on the?
Yeah, the first item is to consider act on final plat for Western Meadows 2, located south of Western Meadows subdivision and east of Redland Road.
Good evening. I'll give a brief report for this final plat. It is a residential subdivision located on the west side of the city. It creates 34 single-family lots, 10 duplex lots, and then an outlot for a future multifamily project. The layout of the plat resembles the approved preliminary plat. The zoning is already in place for the single-family, the duplex, as well as the multifamily zoning. A technical review was completed by city staff, and the applicants have addressed all of the staff concerns. There is an existing wooded area on the plat. That is to remain as an undisturbed area, identified as an isolated natural area. City staff is comfortable with the document that's in the packet that's before you tonight for action. The Plan Commission did review this, and they recommended approval back on April 9th. If approved, this document will be signed, recorded, and then the lots can be sold. The applicant or I am here to answer any specific questions that you might have.
Thank you. Any questions? Any action item?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the final plat for Weston Meadows number 2, located south of Weston Meadows subdivision and east of Redland Road.
Second.
A roll call, please.
Excuse me, my mic is. Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zappel. Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Thank you. Let's move on to the next item. Item B, consider act on condominium plat, addendum number 2 for the Village Crossing 2 located on Belmont Lane and south of Valley Road. Mr. Gallo.
Thank you, Mayor. I will give a brief overview of this condominium plat for Village Crossings 2, addendum number 2. It's located in the Paps Farms. You're all probably familiar. Phase 1 has been approved and completed construction. This phase will add 6 duplex buildings. It will allow for 12 residential units. The units will be very similar to those that have already been completed. Once these are completed in this phase, there'll be 10 more buildings left to go, so 20 more units, and then the development will be complete. A technical review was completed, and the applicant has addressed all of staff's concerns. We are comfortable with the document that was included in your packet that's before you tonight. The Plan Commission did review this. They recommended it on April 9th to you with a positive recommendation. If approved, the building permits will start being issued for these units. I am here to answer any specific questions that you might have.
Alderman Ellis.
Not to be nitpicky, but one of the first things that I did when I became an alderman was I appreciated the directors and the fact that they would always sign off stating that their recommendations were sound. I'm having a bit of a problem with okay per email. I know that's kind of being nitpicky, but if somebody can explain that to me, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, in this time of the COVID-19, we don't have everybody on site. So I talked with Jason about that, and so we authorized, he's got all the emails from our department heads, and then for the sign-off sheet, I asked that he sign it on their behalf and state that it was okay per email. It's just what we're doing in this period when not everybody's physically present.
So we physically have emails
Yes.
from each and every one of these individuals
Yes.
stating okey dokey.
Yes.
I've seen
And
it.
if there were any
saw 'em.
comments, we would have noted them. Okay?
Once this is over, I really want to go back to them signing. Okay.
Any further question or motion?
The emails are right here. Alderman Ellis, I have all the emails, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any motion or further discussion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the considered act on condominium plat addendum number 2 for Village Crossing 2 located on Belmont Lane and South.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Last item on Plan Commission is consider act on certified survey map dividing one lot into 3 lots located on the northeast corner of Old Schoolhouse Road and Valley Road. Mr. Gallo.
Thank you. I'll give a brief overview of this certified survey map. This is a document that can legally divide property. This one is dividing it into 3 lots and 1 outlot. So there's one big 70-acre site, and it's being divided down into 3 lots and 1 outlot. As mentioned, it's in the Paps Farms area on the northeast corner of Old Schoolhouse Road and Valley Road. Lot 1 on the document will be created specifically for a development called the Paps Farms Apartments. There are no specific uses for lots 2 and 3 at this time. The outlot that is on the document will be used for future road purposes for a secondary access for the apartment project. A technical review was completed and the applicant addressed all of the concerns. The Plan Commission did recommend approval on April 9th. Staff is comfortable with the document as submitted in your packet this evening. I wanted to note that Lot 1, the large lot for the Paps Farms Apartments, is going to return to the council in the near future. You're going to see this and you're going to wonder why is this before us? It's going to be redivided to divide off a stormwater management pond as an outlot. They're engineering that right now. They're about 90% complete. They don't know the specific size and location of the pond, so that'll be subdivided at a future date. Just Lot 1 will be redivided for pond purposes. So the Plan Commission again did recommend approval. I am here as well as the applicant is behind me if you have any specific questions about this development. Thank you.
Alderman Rozak.
And then, just like what happened with the other Paps Farm stormwater, that stormwater section gets essentially deeded over to the Paps Stormwater District, and then it's managed by the Stormwater District moving forward, mowed, cleaned, whatever we need to do with it.
Right. This will be on the north side of the property, and it'll be created as a expandable pond, so the other 2 lots, lots 2 and 3, would be able to then drain into it as well. It'll be a regional pond serving the whole area. So that'll be deeded over to the Paps Farm Stormwater District.
One other question I have, Jason, is does Mandel own all 3 lots?
No, they're buying the outlot
one?
and Lot 1.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Alderman Ellis.
Just as in the past, the emails that you received all these emails and they're all okay?
Yes, I did.
Any further discussion? Alderman Mulder.
That's Oconomowoc Parkway that runs along the north side of that property. Will that be extended? Where it?
No,
Is that,
no,
okay.
it will not be.
Any further discussion or motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consider act on the certified survey map dividing one lot into 3 lots located on the northeast corner of Old Schoolhouse Road and Valley Road.
Second.
Roll, please.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
On to new business, Mark Fry, our Director of Public Works, is going to share some things with us. First for consideration is a consider act on Resolution 20-R2867, awarding construction management services for 2020 street maintenance projects.
Thank you, Mayor. The item before you tonight is, the next phase of the 2020 street projects. As you recall, we've already had them designed. We've approved the construction company to start the work. Part of the design engineer's task include providing us estimated number of hours that can be used for a separate RFP for hiring the construction manager. We put that RFP out to several companies. We did only get one response from Bloom Companies. Bloom Companies was recently awarded the Thackeray Trail construction management, so they have started to do some work for the city. Their cost was $293,395. We are requesting the 10% contingency. That's part of our policy for a total of $322,735 for doing the work, and that's a not to exceed number.
Open for questions.
Mr. Mayor?
Alderman Schulpepper.
I was just wondering, Mark, if you could tell us why there was only one bid that was put in?
I can only assume that companies are busy. I can note that we did put out a similar RFP for the design of the Collins Street parking lot, and we did get 8 responses for that. So it comes down to who has personnel to be able to, man these projects. A lot of companies have work that had carried over from previous years, so there's probably not a lot of them that had openings during the time frame of this project. This project's going to be starting to dig in the ground in 2 weeks.
Okay. And you said this, do I need to get
You
that-
can continue, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, get the work the kinks out here. I'm wondering, and you said this is a newer company that we just started working with, Blue Companies? Or
Correct.
we've worked with them, okay, and this is only the second time? And generally, do we think that this is somebody we'll be able to keep using in the pool, that they'll, keep responding to our RFPs? I mean, is this a good sign that we're actually having somebody new working with us? Is that?
Well,
is that
it's
typical?
always encouraging, and it would have been more encouraging to get more, but,
Yeah.
so, just for the newer members of the council, so when we get an RFP in,
Yeah.
we score them on a technical merit. So we go through, see how they responded to the items that we told them they needed to do, how they're gonna approach the project understanding, the personnel that they're gonna have, references. So we go all that, and we score them. You need to get at least 80% of the points in order to get your cost envelope open. And you'll see this on the item I'll be bringing forth at the next meeting. So 8 respondents, we only got requested 4 cost envelopes because that was all that made the cut. So it comes down to how well they're responding to the RFP. Are they a company that, will do well for us? Well, we have checked their references and believe that they will, yes.
Thank you.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Okay, so just to clarify, you had put out requests to 19 different companies, and then no one even responded to our advertisement. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
Well,
so then Bloom,
One responded.
one
Bloom.
responded from the advertisement? Or one just responded from the 19 requests that you put
So
out?
what I do when we send out an RFP is I have a catalog of engineering firms that have either reached out to the city in the past or actually had submitted in the past. I just automatically send to them.
Right.
So these weren't 19 companies that called and asked for the RFP, like they were looking for a worker that this is going to fit to them. They just got it automatically sent to them. I do that to try and obtain as many back as we can.
No, I understand that. So the one came from the 19 that you sent out?
Correct.
Okay, but then we also advertised for bids, but there were no
No
results
one-
from that?
yeah,
Okay,
correct.
that's what I wanted to clarify.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Rozak.
Yeah, when I run the numbers, the construction management's, at least the bid here based on the 2020 street project's about 5%, give or take. Is that pretty typical? I mean, this seems pretty good.
I thought it was, I thought it was a very, very good number.
Okay. In historical context that we've dealt
Correct.
with. Okay. Then I'm comfortable with Bloom, especially if we're using them on the Thackeray Trail right now as well.
Correct.
Okay, good, thanks.
Any further discussion items or motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for the 2020 construction management services for Bloom.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zappel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Next item is consideration act on resolution 20-R2868, disallowing claim from John Sutner, 134 North Main Street. Open for discussion and questions.
Ask some questions, Mr. Fry? Or is he gonna go through it?
Under 89380, when somebody thinks they have a claim against the city, they must file a notice of claim and claim against the city. We then send it to our insurance carriers, and we ask them, what do you think? They have recommended that you disallow this claim. If you disallow this claim, it shortens the time to bring a lawsuit against the city, and I highly recommend that you follow the recommendation of your insurance company and disallow this claim. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments? Alderman Spielberg?
Question for Stan. So according to the statutes, they have 6 months after this to bring a claim,
No, to bring a lawsuit.
to bring the
If you
lawsuit?
formally disallow this.
Okay.
If you don't formally disallow this, this is a property damage claim, and they would have 6 years, correct, Counselor?
That's correct.
Okay.
Bring the action.
And,
So
and what do we think are the chances of them potentially coming back with this lawsuit? I mean, is there
I
any,
have
is there
no
any feel
idea.
on that?
I have no idea.
Okay.
And if they do, your insurance company is going to defend you. And if you lose, the insurance company is going to pay, but you're not going to lose because I'm going to defend you.
Alderman Kavieski?
He answered my question as
Okay,
as part of
good,
his-
thanks. Alderman Shellpepper?
I just have a question as to why, and I don't know if this would be for you as well, Stan, or, why we're not provided, I guess, more information as to why the insurance company wants to disallow the claim. I mean, I understand.
I'll be
I-
glad to answer that. He had some kind of flooding onto his property. It had nothing to do with the city, and he does not have a leg to stand on, and that's the
Yeah,
answer.
well, and I believe that, but it'd
Yeah.
be great to get some kind of primary information from the insurance company that says as much, so that I can, justify my vote by seeing that information presented, that's all.
That's fair.
So maybe in the future, I mean, hopefully I don't know how often, the claims
Oh,
happen.
we get these claims
Yeah,
all the
so
time.
maybe in the future, we have more primary information presented.
The thing that I'm concerned about is if we talk about the circumstances of a potential lawsuit in open session,
We could go into close, couldn't we?
we could. But if we do that all the time, we will be spending a lot of time on issues that, your insurance company is asking you to do.
I understand that.
And
I understand that.
I don't know that we really want to.
Alderman Rozak?
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with what Alderman
sorry.
Shellpepper's saying. I think maybe in the future, what would be nice is just a summary of what the findings were that they're telling us to disallow. Maybe the executive summary from their report or something. We also do have a duty to cooperate under the insurance policy, so we absolutely, if they tell us kind of to disallow and they're defending and paying, we kind of have no choice. But I see where you're coming from. I think a little bit more information would be nice. I will, though, vote still to disallow the claim.
Alderman Kavieski?
The vote in favor of this isn't it doesn't negate the ability for them to come and sue the city. It just shortens the period of time that they
Right.
have available to that extent, so.
I think they have, Stan will correct me, but I think they have 120 days to file a claim with the city, or is it 160?
120 days.
Right, right,
And then if we disallow.
right. So it's a pro forma thing. If they think the city caused something, they only have 120 days to submit the claim, and if they don't do it in time, they're out of luck against the city.
Well, yes, and they've done that, and if we don't
They have 6 months.
Then they have the full 6 years.
You want to shorten the time?
Right.
Any further discussions or a motion?
I'll move to disallow the claim of Sutner.
Second. Roll, please.
Alderman Spiegelberg,
Aye.
Alderman Mulder,
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper,
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski,
Aye.
Alderman Rogers,
Aye.
Alderman Rozak,
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel,
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Next agenda item, consider act on resolution 20-R2869, declaring state of emergency in the city of Oconomowoc regarding COVID-19, amendment number 1. Any questions or discussion? Alderman Shellpepper?
Yes, so I guess I'm just wondering why the declaration is necessary. So we have already an order in place from our governor. Why does the city need to extend the declaration? Are there any kind of particular resources, grants that are afforded to the city if we declare this emergency? Can you provide specific examples of why the emergency is necessary? And also, what kind of, I guess, data or information can we provided, can the council be provided to justify the extension of the emergency order? Because you can tell me it's necessary, that this is what's happening in the news, but we don't have any numbers behind like what's actually happening in our area, in our city. And I think we could be given this information without violating HIPAA laws, without giving personal identifiable information. I think it's important to have this information presented to the council in some sort of format so that we have a better understanding of the justification behind extending the order.
Yeah, I have the next council agenda item. I actually have a report to all of you to give you an update on city operations, and I have some of those statistics of where we're at with the cases in our local area. In this particular case with this particular resolution, the council did approve a previous declaration of state of emergency, and that went in, that was passed on March 17th. And so this resolution is almost identical. There's 2 changes in this amendment. The first change that prompted this to come back is that we have, you're aware we have the Oconomowoc Business Loan Pool Program in our community. And so we have some potential loans that will be coming through. And the council has given the authority to the Community Development Authority to typically approve those loans. And that is a program that we partner with Bank 59 on, and it's actually the bank's funds that go as a low-interest loan to our community businesses that are trying to start up or do some redevelopment and things. And so we thought in this time of the COVID-19 pandemic, when we're trying to we have less ability to come together, that the council may want to give consideration to allowing the mayor to approve those loans just in this period of time, and instead of the CDA. There is a thorough review process that occurs before those loans come forward, even to the CDA, and that would not change. And so that was the consideration that prompted this amendment to the declaration of the state of emergency. While we were in drafting, the governor issued his extended Safer at Home. And so with the time period, I just changed the time period to match what his order through that May 26th date. The council had worked through the guidelines that were on the second page of the resolution, and so we're operating under all of those guidelines currently, and so with the extension of the Safer at Home, I thought it was just logical to extend our resolution to match that.
So the only,
I'm not done.
Okay,
Yep.
go ahead, sorry.
I'm getting to your other question. And then in regards to your question about potential funding and things, it's our understanding that we need our own declaration in place. If there are to be potential FEMA grant dollars or something in the future, to apply for, that we would need our own declaration of emergency in place in order to be eligible. So you'll see many communities across the state, and probably, at least in the state that I'm aware of, have done their own declarations of emergency. They've given, you know, not everybody's doing the same kinds of guidelines or powers, but certainly, in this case, our council had worked through that, established the guidelines. We saw this one area that we thought might make sense for consideration for an amendment, and then just matching that timeline up.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand the 35 days as far as the emergency, because that takes us out to the May 26th.
Right.
However, the motion to include mayoral approval of the business development loans, as we start to open up the state again, and that could be in 2 weeks, could we potentially separate these out and maybe give like 14 days for these mayoral approvals of the loans? And not that we don't trust you, nothing,
No.
but just, and then if we need to, we revisit this in a couple weeks. We'll be back together in a couple weeks, and then we can revisit this and say, well, now we need to go out another couple weeks with
You
this.
certainly could. We just, we know that there's one in the wings waiting to come through. We're not exactly sure when it's coming through, and potentially a second, right, Bob?
Right. We have one entity trying to buy a business in downtown. That all of this reviewing, and then
And that's great. Yep.
potentially two others that are coming in.
Alderman Ellis.
Yeah, I may be just a little confused, but I'm not in favor of this, and I'll explain to you why. First off, I don't think that we should be a bank, and I'm hoping that's not where we're going with that. Second off, I think that the May 26th, that's not going to be really good for a lot of the small businesses that are here. I need more clarification on when you say giving the mayor or us the ability, the mayor, to approve. Am I reading
Yes,
that right?
yep, that's what the guidelines
Okay,
are drafted
that-
as.
That concerns me a little bit. It really does. So if you can give me a little bit more information on that, because right now I'm just not in favor of it.
What area do you feel you need more information on? The
far as the-
program itself?
Yeah,
or-
as far as the fact that the way I'm hearing it, I could be wrong,
Mhm.
and I probably am. The way I'm hearing it is that we will be approving loans to small businesses that apply for them. I've got a problem with that.
It's not anything, these loans are not related to the pandemic. This was our program that was in place. It used to be, Alderman Ellis, the Downtown Business Loan Pool Program. Do you remember? Our original program was the Downtown Business Loan Pool Program. And then it expanded so that we could service businesses in other key corridors and things as well. So now it's called the Oconomowoc Business Loan Pool Program. And so it is not city funds. It is a partnership again with Bank 5-9. It is the bank's funds actually, I think it's their community development reinvestment funds that
And
they.
who's guaranteeing this? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to set you, but.
If there's defaults on these loans, the bank is the one that is absorbing those losses. So we're really just we're almost a pass-through in this regard as well, and a partnership approval authority there.
Alderman Zaffel.
I wasn't finished.
Let's go to Alderman Zaffel. I'll come back to you.
Okay.
I don't know if this is Sarah or Stan, so say the state order expires as Alderwoman Spiegelberg referenced, say 2-3 weeks, then this would expire as well?
I gotta see how we have that written. It says, or until further modified by further proclamation or action of the council. So if the Safer at Home were to be retracted some,
Sure.
the mayor can do his own proclamation to shorten it, or if it times out right, we could bring it back to the council to shorten it as well.
Okay, thank you.
And then the council can ratify a mayor's proclamation on that.
Alderman Ellis, you had a
Yeah,
Just a follow-up?
I had one follow-up as far as the city's responsibility then. What's our responsibility if they default on their loan? Do we have one?
No.
No, no, no.
Alderman Rozak.
Thank you.
Okay, so the CDA is essentially the statutory conduit by which we get the loans.
Correct.
So the CDA has a variety of redevelopment authority. They get the low-interest loan through the bank. It's guaranteed by the bank, personally guaranteed by the individuals who are the owner of the businesses. We're just simply the conduit so they can get it at a lower interest rate. There's no default that ever affects us as a city. It's a great program. But I think what's that?
It's outstanding. I have it.
Okay, yeah, there
I
you go.
applied for it. I got it. It's wonderful.
So I think to alleviate some of the concerns about whether or not we're in compliance with what the governor's doing and/or giving too much power for too long, my proposal is a compromise that we change the period of time in the now therefore clause from 35 days just to extend to the next council meeting or May 5th at 11:59 p.m. That gives the mayor essentially 2 weeks to exercise the power. And if the governor continues his order, all the council has to do is, do it another 2 weeks or, extend it as long.
It seems very reasonable. Would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, so I'll move to amend the now therefore be it further resolved, hereby resolved clause, and striking for a period of 35 days and changing it with up to the next council meeting or May 5th at 11:59 p.m.
Second.
Whichever is later, because you may cancel that meeting. Just
Well, let's just make it till May 5th at 11:59 p.m. Yeah.
Okay. Second.
Mayor, are you okay with that change?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll roll call, please.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Nay. I have a question, I guess, and it didn't get resolved, so I don't know what the correct point of order was. It wasn't, it wasn't clear to me, so I don't know where to go from there.
there was a motion to
Yeah,
amend.
I saw that. So I can't do any kind of amendment to the amendment or?
You
make
can
a-
after this
At this
is
point,
Okay.
it's been called.
Okay, nay.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Nay.
Passed.
Alderman Rozak.
Okay, so one other thing I just want to fix real quick if we can. The second bullet point on the emergency guidelines in the back, it's something doesn't sound right there. City government facilities may be closed or restricted access for essential functions. Something just doesn't sound funky there. I think we should I don't think we need a motion to amend. I think it should just be typographically or grammatically
Okay,
fixed.
all right, thank you.
And then my last amendment I would like to do is I think as part of this guideline, we should incorporate, which was given to us today and which we looked at and amended at the last meeting, the City of Oconomowoc Pandemic Preparedness Plan. I think it should be incorporated as part of the resolution because it contains a lot of what we've discussed. So I'll move to amend the guidelines to add one more bullet point that states as follows, that we hereby incorporate the City of Oconomowoc Pandemic Preparedness Plan as revised March 20, well, as of today, I guess. March, what is it today?
I think we passed that on the 17th.
17th, 2020.
Motion's been made. Anyone second?
Second.
Sorry, I didn't catch who said that.
Second was
Thank you.
Second was
Lou. Roll call, please.
Okay, so this is on the additional amendment, correct,
Yes.
Alderman?
Incorporate
Okay.
this.
Okay, aye.
Recognize.
Said Spiegelberg, didn't you?
No, I didn't say anything. I thought you were
Oh, okay.
asking
Sorry,
something.
good.
Ready?
Mayor.
Okay.
Yep.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
I think an alderman wanted to be recognized before the
Oh.
question was called.
Well,
Recognize Alderman Shell Pepper.
yeah, I'm just trying to understand, I guess it wasn't made clear to me why the CDA can't meet remotely. I mean, that's what it's not making sense to me. Why does the mayor need to be given this power at all? Why can't the CDA, which has the statutory authority to, to run this program, why aren't they the ones that are making the decision? I understand you say it's because of the COVID, but I mean, we have a lot of resources to be able to pull these people together
On the same
remotely.
page.
And so that's why I don't understand why we approved Alderman Rozik's amendment.
Yeah, and it's certainly, it's an option we can do. We do have the capabilities now for the WebEx meeting. It's, so that's certainly a possibility. We're trying to find ways to be responsive quickly, and pulling people together for meetings and things can slow the process down as well. So it's certainly an option. This would be a more expedited way to accomplish that in this time period. So it's really a policy decision for you.
How quickly do we need to be able to make the decision? I mean, when you say, that, we have to do it quick, I mean, that's why we're doing it through the mayor.
Yeah,
How quick?
Well, it's the businesses, when they're ready to go on that, the sooner the better from their perspective. But
right.
there's, is there some drop dead date on our end? Absolutely not,
How
but
long would it take to get the CDA together to be able to make a
it depends
decision?
on schedules. So it can take a week or two, depending on people's schedules and noticing requirements and all of that. It's probably more like 2 weeks, but by the time you talk to everybody, get their schedules, get the notice out, and get it scheduled, it ends up being almost 2 weeks before you get a meeting scheduled.
And is it like that even when we're not dealing with this
Yes,
COVID?
yes.
And so would this money need to be, would it be needed in a more expedited fashion because of the COVID crisis?
We're just trying to be responsive to the businesses that are able to continue their investment in
Yeah,
our
right.
downtown in these times. So that's been staff and I think council's philosophy is, let's try to encourage and support economic development where it is able to occur. So that's the basis and the premise of this, is just trying to be responsive to those who are able to invest at this time.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderman Koliaski.
I'm on your page with that, and I was going to try to address that as an amendment after we get done with
the vote.
the current
Looking
amendment.
at me or Shell Pepper? Are you looking at me?
We're talking to each other right here.
Let's, would you
We'll-
like
we'll
to come
address it
back
after.
after the vote?
now a motion on the table.
To amend, but not to approve the final.
Right.
Correct.
To amend to
So
include
let's
the pandemic.
let's do a roll call and come back.
Okay. I'll start again in case change your mind. Alderman Spiegelberg,
Aye.
Alderman Mulder,
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper,
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski,
Aye.
Alderman Rogers,
Aye.
Alderman Rozak,
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel,
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Thank you. Let's come back to the floor. Is there an additional amendment or discussion that would like to be raised? Alderman Koliaski.
Yeah, I've been part of the CDA, part of the role of the CDA in gathering information to those businesses that come forth for the loan is open to the public. I think it's a nice way to get them some exposure. I understand the request to expedite that through the powers of your ability to sign off on that, but we do have the ability to expeditiously do a WebEx type presentation of that business alone, make that in a public format, and I'd prefer that. So I'd like to look for an amendment on this amended document to allow for the CDA to maintain the approval authority and have them expedite that meeting in whatever format is authorized as part of the policy through this COVID-19 situation.
Alderman
So if
Rozak.
that's, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just, let me speak to that. I gotta speak into this darn thing. It's like in the corner and I
I
can't
know.
quite get to
Sorry.
it. So I philosophically, I know where you guys are coming from. I don't like to give up too much power either, but let me ask you a question, Lou. In all the time you've been on the CDA, have you ever denied a loan?
We have not.
Okay, so kind of what we're arguing about is probably much ado about nothing, because the CDA would likely approve the loan anyway.
Right.
We're talking about maybe a period of time with my amendment, which I think is the middle ground, which is 2 weeks essentially, to give the mayor the chance to approve one or two that may come in. I don't. That's why I made the amendment too, so that this power doesn't go on until the end of May or into June. That he has to keep coming back, hopefully, to us and say, hey, I think we need another 2 weeks, and
I'm
then
happy to
maybe
do
we
that.
address this then. That if this continues on for much longer, so that I'm trying to address both. The concern to expedite it. I mean, the CDA, you can't expect these people to come in. I think at this point, and sit for a meeting. And one other point. We do have a bullet point that allows governmental meetings to alternative already in there. So if they can get them together, they can get them together.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
I think this is a good compromise, too. I think by taking away his power for the 2 weeks, to do that is potentially going to put a hindrance in the way of these loans being approved that maybe doesn't need to be there.
Esteemed attorney.
Bob, who wants a loan?
We currently have a individual who has an offer to purchase the Old Town Comfort Shoes.
Okay.
Change it into another business called Scarpe Bello Shoes.
Anybody else?
Well, we have 2 potential loans that are.
Just smoking.
Shipped off an application to.
How much?
These loans, business loan pool, $25,000 at 1%, 10-year loans, money up bank 5.9.
Not our money.
Correct.
Do you have any problem with him approving those loans between now and May 5?
I do.
Okay. You
And
do.
and the only reason.
Does anybody else?
Boy, I feel welcome.
Well, again, the only reason is
It's not personal, I'm
This
teasing.
is all
I'm
BS.
teasing.
Well, it's a procedural thing, right? We,
Oh,
we
yes.
have a procedure set in place for the CDA to review these loans.
And here is the potential.
We have the ability to meet via WebEx to go through normal protocol and procedure to do that.
He's got a motion,
Why?
you've got a
It's just-
proposed amendment, bring your amendment, see if you get a second,
So
see
before
you get a
we,
vote.
before we move forward, is there any further discussion?
Sorry, Mayor.
That's okay. Don't do it again.
Oh, I will.
Here.
Any other further discussion? Alderman Kowalski, would you like to propose a motion, sir?
I did propose the motion to amend. We have a second on the floor.
I'll second.
Okay, I'm sorry, did not hear that. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Can you repeat that motion again?
Motion is to amend, to delete, authorize the mayor to approve applications for a Connewauk Business Loan Pool Program, period.
Which would leave it in the hands of the
Right.
CDA
Right.
to go through normal protocol.
Roll, please.
All right. Alderman Spiegelberg,
Nay.
Alderman Mulder,
Nay.
Alderman Shell Pepper,
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski,
Aye.
Alderman Rogers,
Nay.
Alderman Rozak,
Nay.
Alderman Zaffel,
Nay.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Okay, let's move on to our next discussion item. Number D, we're going to talk about the state of emergency of city operations.
I'm sorry, Mayor, as a point
Wait,
of order, I think we
point of
have to
order, yes.
actually, we've amended this, but I think we
Right.
need to.
Oh, I'm
adopt the
sorry, we
whole
need
thing.
Yes.
to vote on the whole thing, please. Yes, would
Yes,
someone
the
make a
amend,
motion?
as amended. Mhm.
As amended. Would someone make a motion, please?
Yeah,
Make a
I'll move.
motion on that as amended.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Spiegelberg,
Aye.
Alderman Mulder,
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper,
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski,
Aye.
Alderman Rogers,
Aye.
Alderman Rozak,
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel,
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Thank you. We're going to move on to number D, 7D, discussion of the state of emergency of city operations. What I'd like to do is explain how we're going to have this discussion. We're going to first receive an update from Ms. Kinsippel, and then we're going to go ahead and move on to a legal opinion from our city attorney. Then we'll start with Alderman Kowalski stating his opinion. We'll go around the table here so everyone has a shot to either make a comment on the current state. If they don't want to make a comment, that's fine, just say pass, and then we'll open up for further discussion back and forth. Let's move forward.
All right.
Look forward to your update. Thank you.
Sure. I just want to provide everyone a brief update on the status of the city operations during the state of emergency, related, of course, to the COVID-19 pandemic. As you all are aware, the pandemic has continued and the virus continues to spread, with new cases in the state of Wisconsin confirmed each day. On a more local level, the statistics are currently showing that there are 272 positive cases confirmed in Waukesha County, and with 11 of those being in our city of Oconomowoc. The good news is 6 of our 11 cases in the city have been recovered and have been cleared, so that is good news. The city, through all of this, has been concerned for the safety of our community and our employees, and we've taken a number of steps during this time, and with our operations, and in addition, we've tried to share information out to the public as we get it through our website and social media interfaces and outreach and things. So just briefly, I mean, you're probably aware of most of this, but I thought it would be nice just to kind of give you a quick overview of operationally where we stand. Currently, city buildings are closed to the public, and that includes the buildings that are most visited, City Hall, our library, and our community center. Our police department lobby window is closed, but it is accessible 24/7. There's a phone in that lobby that if you pick it up, you get a dispatcher and the police can respond. So we do have access for our public to the police 24/7, but the window is closed. There are a lot of resources available to our citizens out on our website. So we've been encouraging people to go out there and visit the website to find information, because we do have reduced staffing that is in the buildings as well. And so we've been trying to be proactive in getting that information out there so they know, there's certain payments they can make online, or find information about whatever their question is on garbage pickup or yard waste pickup, or whatever the question is that they're looking for. So we've been trying to make sure people are aware of that. In addition, you're aware our city parks remain open. So, we want people outside recreating. We're asking people to be respectful of the social distancing guidelines. Our philosophy has been, sometimes you may see some people that might be gathered. If we do see that, we ask people politely to move along and to respect those social distancing guidelines. And so we're really trying to take a we're working with you approach with our citizens and our public and educate them. While parks remain open, our playgrounds are closed. And that was a decision that it's part of the governor's order, and our recreation programs have been suspended during this time. Another area is any events that were scheduled at the community center during this time have been canceled, and staff has done a great job with outreach to any of the rental people and having an open dialogue with them about how we, about the situation, and so we've been dealing with that as best as we can. As far as our departments, each of our departments has worked to implement alternative staffing schedules so that we can follow our social distancing guidelines the best that we can and reduce the risk of multiple exposures in a work unit. When you think about essential services such as our police officers, our utility employees, where we need to be able to respond to an outage or a water main break, or do required testing, or something, some infrastructure issue that comes up that's an emergency, we need to be able to have the appropriate staff that have the certifications and the training in order to be able to take care of that. So we've worked with each of the departments on basically, there's kind of like a rotating staff schedule that we've set up with each department, and to try to minimize the overlap of work crews. So if somebody does become exposed or test positive, that we're not taking out the whole work unit at the same time, okay? So in addition, where it's been feasible, we've been having people work from home. So, there's not as many people in the buildings, and that's what I was saying, we're trying to direct people to our website. A lot of our time over these past few weeks was consumed by the election process. So the election on April 7th and the in-office absentee voting that led up to that election, there was a lot of work that went into that and planning and trying to make sure that we were ensuring safety of our staff and the public. And I think that we had a successful election in consolidating our polling places, reducing the number of people we needed to work that. We were very blessed to have the National Guard that came and provided us 25 poll workers the day of the election. So that was fantastic, and very, very grateful for that support there. And I think that we did receive a number of compliments actually on the layout of the polling place, and people just felt that did go and vote. We got a lot of compliments on the layout and how they felt safe, and I have to specifically, Diane did a lot of work, and the staff, we pulled staff from all departments to help with the absentee process. So a lot of staff that we had sent home, we had to call back in. So we had to call in between 10 and 15 people each day just to work on elections during the in-office voting period. So, and I have to say kudos to, as well to Mark and Bob for helping with the layout of the polling location, because they were our logistics team and made it happen. So thank you. Let's see. In addition, then, we've also focused on our business community, and we've taken some steps already. Right away, you may have saw that we did the carryout zone for businesses, for our restaurants, and that was done basically within a day or two. The concept was there, and we got it implemented, so fantastic work there. A business resource center page was developed on our city website, and we also sent out a community survey to our businesses to try to start gathering information on how they're being impacted and what resources maybe we could connect them to. I'm almost done. As the governor announced the extension of the Safer at Home order last week, that goes through May 26th. Now what our departments are in is in that planning for the next phase of our operations. And so we need to look at how do we start phasing back in once this is released and still ensure the safety of everyone involved. You know, it's getting to be our busy season, right? Grass is growing, people are out and about more, it's our construction season. And so the departments are eager to get back because there's a backlog of work that we need to do, and we need to figure out how we move forward. So we'll be working on that and trying to solidify those plans a little bit further, but I want you to know that we're working on that, and we'll be back in touch with you and let you know our plans there. Let's see, one more point. We're gathering information on the financial impacts of the pandemic, and we got our systems in place to track expenses and revenue losses and revenue impacts, so that when or if any potential FEMA grant funding is available, that we have that information available and ready. And so we've been staying on top of that. And I just want to close with letting you know how much we, and I mean the entire city staff, really appreciate the support of the city council and the community in these difficult times. And we're all in this together. It's new uncharted territory. We're trying to work and navigate this with everyone, and we're trying to provide the best support and resources back to our citizens and businesses that we can. And I want to thank all our departments and employees for their support and their team spirit through all of this. And it's really heartwarming to see everyone pull together throughout the community, throughout the staff. And we're going to continue to, diligently monitor the situation and continue our plan for the future. So that's just a brief update on operations.
Thank you for the update. We may bring you back for some
That's fine.
questions. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Attorney Riffle.
I don't exactly know what my involvement would be, other than to, from an open meetings perspective, say that the agenda item says discussion on state of emergency city operations. So we're not taking any action tonight. We're talking through all this. If anybody wants to suggest some kind of, action, then my suggestion is to bring it up tonight. And if the majority of you want it on the next agenda, you can absolutely get it on the next agenda. So that's my only involvement.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Unless you had something else in mind, Mayor.
No, I do not. Let's go around the horseshoe. We'll call it a horseshoe. If we can start, Alderman Kavieski.
So we've had an extension of the stay-at-home orders by our governor to the 26th. That has created a lot of angst and concern within our community from a business standpoint. The data that I've seen associated with the pandemic now has us under a 1 point, which means that we're on the other side of the curve, and we should be preparing for the 3-phase re-engagement program that the federal government has outlined, which I believe most states are taking as the guideline for their next steps. In phase 1, the Opening Up America Again plan. I believe that extension oversteps its bounds. I know that is a legal opinion. I know there are going to be some legal challenges associated with that. I know without a doubt our governor has intrastate commerce capabilities. The interstate commerce capabilities lie in federal hands. There are people within my neighborhood that rely on going out of state to conduct business and have a livelihood associated with that are going to be constrained by this stay-at-home. So there's interstate and intrastate impact associated with this, as well as our local community. I like what we did with the extension of our local emergency powers to basically May 5th. I think we should be preparing for re-engagement at an earlier date than the 5/26. There has been the pendulum of reaction from protest to compliance. And I'd like to see our community stay united. Our community definitely has been great and heartwarming in regards to its response to this current situation, and I'd hate to see that fracture for the health and well-being of our citizens, as well as the health and well-being of the commerce that goes on here within our city. I think it is our duty as we get sworn in to uphold the Constitution. So if there is something that is coming down from up above that we feel is potentially unconstitutional, it is our job to lend voice to that and not necessarily support that. It is our job to represent the citizens of this community and their ability to maintain a standard of living based on their livelihood and their efforts. All of that has been put on pause. And as this discussion goes, I think we need to, as council, be prepared as a policymaking body that this may not go to the 5/26 date, that we should be preparing our community, both through education and the efforts that are coming up and being discussed, to engage sooner based on data and science that provides that ability to do that in such a way that provides for our community health. This is definitely unprecedented territory. Welcome aboard, new alderman. But in this discussion, I'd like to make it very public that our community, our city has done a fantastic job in responding to this. And as part of our continued efforts in responding to this, we need to be preparing for an earlier date than the 5/26, or we're going to be having a lot different discussion after the 5/26 based on the outcome of what occurs in our downtown and our surrounding areas. So that's the start of the conversation, I
Great.
guess.
Thank you, Alderman. And Alderman Mulder.
I guess I don't have a whole lot to add. I think that my basic opinion is that we watch what the state does, and if the state Supreme Court overrules and gives us different opinions, we follow those. I think that, you know, you're starting to, I noticed this weekend, it was beautiful weather, of course, but I think that the protest in Brookfield, I think that the move on, that you had out on social media, asking people to, you know, to request to open the city up, I think that has had an impact already. I saw more people gathering in small groups. There's always been people playing tennis. Now they're gathering on the sideline talking about it. There's people standing outside some of the restaurants that are serving food, talking in small groups, while a week ago there weren't. So whether there's a legal reason that we're reopening earlier or not, the city has, I think, already started to reopen on their own accord. We're seeing restaurants in Wauwatosa saying we're opening May 1st, May 5th, I forget. I would not like to see our community follow that. I don't want to be a draw for people throughout the area coming specifically to Oconomowoc because we've opened when the rest of the world hasn't. So I don't, I'm a big fan of following the science we have behind this, but I think we need to be ready for people to act in the way that they see best for themselves and their family, and that will probably mean that we're going to see a lot more self-opening up of the community, regardless of what the state Supreme Court or the governor passes along to us. So.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Spiegelberg.
I agree with some of what they're each saying, so I won't repeat that, but I would like to thank Bob and Mark and Sarah and Diane and everybody for the amazing job that they did on Election Day, just went above and beyond. And I heard so many great things from all the citizens and how smoothly all of that went. So thank you very much for that. So I won't repeat some of what they said that I might have agreed with. Can I address the task force?
We're going to address it a little bit later.
Oh, we are?
Because, yes.
Okay,
So we'll
okay.
be addressing that actually
Okay,
quite
then
quickly.
because I had some questions on that as far as how we move forward
You bet.
and
You bet.
with, you know, using this now with potentially having to open up our city a little bit earlier, which would be
Absolutely.
a great thing. So, all right.
Be a great segue.
Good.
Thank you. Alderman Ellis. Oh, I'm sorry.
Wait, we gotta,
I missed you. I kept coming back. Yeah. Let's go. Alderman Shellpepper.
Yeah, I guess what I would, you know, echo some of the sentiments in terms of thanking the city. I think the city staff, I mean, they've really gone above and beyond. We really appreciate that. We really, I really appreciate making sure that they, you know, the elections went off without a hitch. I mean, it was really impressive to be able to do that with so much uncertainty surrounding it. So it was just really appreciate it. In terms of the city, actually, I think regardless of whether the city and we as a policy-making body feel that the governor's orders are unconstitutional, I think that he is the lawfully appointed governor, and that until a body such as the the state Supreme Court determines that his order is unlawful, that we are obligated to follow that order. I think that it's not up to the city to push those boundaries, but a separate branch of the state government, such as the legislature, and that's what's happening right now, and that's the correct process that should occur. I would also say that I feel like the plan that has been put in place by the governor does mimic the federal guidelines, and if we agree that the federal guidelines are the guidelines that we should be operating off of in addition to the state's guidelines, then we shouldn't push back against it and usurp or try to nullify the governor's orders. The one part I would say is that I found the extension of the 26th to be, I didn't agree with it personally. However, I found that the order that came out about 2 days ago, or was it the day before, the Badger Bounce Back Plan, that mimics the federal orders more precisely. I find that the testing guidelines that were put out by that order are probably not realistic, and I don't think that they're going to be able to be complied with in order to, get the state opened up again. But just on terms of the city level, I think we need to comport with the governor's orders. But I also think that there is room within those orders to possibly provide guidance to our city businesses. I saw some openings there in terms of non-essential businesses, some operations that weren't allowed in the initial safer at home order. I don't know if we as a city can provide some guidance to our, I think all businesses are essential, but what are classified as non-essential, if we can provide them some guidance in terms of online or telephonic retailing that they can do. And then just to agree with Alderman Kavieski in terms of we very likely may be opening up before the May 26th, and we need to have a plan in place to do that, so.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Ellis.
First off, I want to thank the staff for all it did during elections. You took you made a decision, and you went with that decision, and I think it was a right one. So I want to thank you. Thank you for all that you've done. I'm coming at it from another angle. I don't know how many of you all have small businesses, but I do. And I see it, and no, not the 26th of May. I will tell you, whereas I can't guarantee this, I can pretty much say that if this goes until the 26th of May, we're going to go back to 2008. And if you all remember what happened in 2008, it wasn't a good thing. We need to start the process now of opening up these businesses. And we need to figure out a way in which we can mentally help the citizens understand that they are in a safe community and in a safe environment. Because the easy part is for the businesses to open their doors. That's the easy part. The hard part is to get the people in because of all the things that they read about in the media. So we need to start this process now, not tomorrow, not a day from tomorrow, now. Because at the end of the day, if we don't do that, whether it's the 5th, the 15th, or the 26th, it's not going to make a difference. There's going to be a whole bunch of people closing the doors. So we need to start doing something ASAP.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Zapfel.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Sarah, for the update. Thank you, Diane, to you and your staff and the rest of the employees of the city of Oconomowoc. I appreciate you guys coming together during these unprecedented times. Appreciate the update the other day, Sarah. One example you gave is the library staff getting certifications and stuff like that aren't able to be in the library. I'm happy to see with this new order that they're able to provide curbside service and whatnot. Learned from Alderman Rozek from observing him in meetings and online with some prepared notes sometimes. I know you speak from the hip sometimes, but sometimes you have prepared remarks as well, and I have some for this as well. I think one thing here tonight is we all can agree that limiting the spread of the virus must be our first priority. Safer at Home has limited the spread of the COVID virus, it's flattened the curve, and it's saved lives. I've heard about this personally. I've experienced it personally from family and friends that have been affected by this virus and who are no longer with us. Being safer at home, Wisconsin doubled its COVID-19 positive cases every 3.4 days. The rate of doubling has decreased to every 12 days. Without safer at home and the time it allows for Wisconsin to build additional capacity to manage the virus, COVID-19 cases would resurge and overwhelm our health systems. I've been talking to medical professionals, including medical professionals here in Oconomowoc, at Aurora Summit, and ProHealth. Setting Wisconsin further back from our goal of returning to work and our normal lives. Without safer at home, our first responders would be at higher risk. We would be endangering vulnerable Wisconsinites, and in the end, slow down our economic recovery, which is one of our main priorities here. I support the governor's plan to reopen Wisconsin phases that have been outlined by President Trump. Informed by science, I have some letters here from medical professionals. I don't believe there's any doctors here. I know Matt was a med. Well, veterinarian, apologize. I don't know if I can enter this in record. This is from different medical professionals in the state of Wisconsin. And then I also have from the hospitals in the state of Wisconsin as well in regards to the Safer Together. I don't know if I can enter that in record or not.
Yeah, that accepted into record, and we'll have those distributed.
Okay. This approach will also give Wisconsin necessary time to expand testing and tracing systems, build capacity with the healthcare system, secure additional personnel protective equipment. Safer at home is right for Wisconsin, its communities, its businesses, and workers. Some people may know this about me. I'm a geek, and I like to read a lot. Some of the remarks I've read today is that they're going to be opening the state potentially in phases in different parts where the numbers are slower. I could also enter that in record. And, you know, as Alderman Mulder referenced and Chaz, you know, they are following the federal guidelines that are given from the federal government in regards to opening the state. And I believe they will be opening this up in phases as well. And as Sarah said earlier, you know, we're all in this together. I hope that we can work as a council and move forward together as a council, not create any divisions in regards to these issues, because it's about lives here.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Rozak.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief. The topic was discussion on state of emergency city operations, so I'm going to try to focus on the city operations aspect of this and not so much things we can't control like the president or the governor or the Supreme Court. Two big points. One is I think now is a good time for the city during this emergency to start looking at revenues. Sarah mentioned that we're looking at evaluating revenues. For instance, we know that the community center is likely going to be shut down for quite a long time, which is reducing our revenue from the community center, both for future weddings and things like that, which means there's going to be significant revenue reductions for Park and Recs funds and for our general fund. But more so than that, I've been warning for years on the council since I've been on that we're overspending, and we continue to overspend the Northeast Regional Park, the police department building, dispatch, and other various waste. And now, as of today, the National Realtors Association announced the March numbers for home sales, down 8.5%. April, the expected drop is 30 to 40%. After several months of home sale drops, what happens is home values start dropping so that they can move homes that are absolutely necessary to move. And when that occurs, home sales go down. People stop building, and our assessments end up going down, and our tax revenues go down. We've been very fortunate in Oconomowoc since probably, 2011, we really kind of pulled out of the recession good here, and we've had consistent new construction numbers and significant revenues. I think one of the things we should do as potentially part of the proposal from the mayor or through city staff, and I'm happy to help, is start looking at what we spend money on and looking at reevaluating big ticket items we've recently voted on, and also things like future conferences, Germany trips, things of that nature in order to tighten our belt. Now's the time to start looking at that before we're faced with a revenue deficit. We know there will be a revenue deficit. Just the community center alone with the revenue deficit there is significant. And that's just one thing. Don't mention all the other programs and everything else that we put on. The second point I want to make is info sharing. My understanding is there are state stat reports that are shareable to elected officials. At this point, we're being asked to vote on a lot of things without a lot of information. The information, Sarah, you just gave on Waukesha County and the city of Oconomowoc's great, was very helpful. And to the extent we can get that information maybe on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis. I know there are conference calls on several times a week with some of the emergency powers in the area. I think it would be great for us to get some of that information along with some of your emails. Just so, if we're voting on emergency powers and we know how many cases are here or how many cases are in Waukesha County, I think that can help educate our decision. And that'll allow us to exercise those powers and or provide those powers to the mayor better. No, this was in my notes, but we got it. The revised pandemic preparedness plan. You guys did make changes to this, I noted in this document from the last meeting, and we incorporated it into the emergency declaration resolution, which was great. Thank you for that work. And that's all I have for now.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Rogers.
Very simply, I appreciate the efforts the city is making. I feel like it still ultimately has, as a whole, very much a small town appeal because whether it's from your house or Zoom or however anybody that's running the city or in a position to run their department or not run but work for it, in a weird way, everybody is still attempting to stick together as a team and keep this thing moving forward. Ultimately, with COVID-19 and the extension, and there's a million different opinions, and that's not the issue here. The bottom line is, we do, as I am at my business, looking at my daily operation and going, where can I save money to keep people working? I feel, I don't know how it can be changed, that we shouldn't be doing exactly what Matt is speaking. I'm not a line item guy, I'm more of a big picture guy, so I appreciate having Matt working in the same district as me because I can defer to him. He's better at that than I am, but it is a great time to sit back and re-audit what we're already worked through and just T&I everything, and that's all I got.
Thank you, Alderman. I'd like to add one comment before I bring it to open discussion. The comment is really, really straightforward. We're in challenging times, and frankly, we all want the same thing. And so I've heard it from multiple people. Let's work together to get that same thing. And in an agenda item later, which is a task force that we were introducing that I've spoken with all of you about, that helps create the structure to do the things that we want to do, to really look at our own shop, our own city, to really help our community. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I love the candor. I love the ideas and the thoughts. We need to continue discussions like this. At this point, we can leave it open for discussions or questions back and forth, or move on to the next agenda item. It's up to you. Mr. Kowalski.
I would like to enter in those who participated in the petition to expedite our opening. There are 521 signatures that were provided in that petition. And again, in regards to discussions of our state of emergency city operations, I know all of our department heads are going to be impacted by this. I know Mr. Duffy is going to be a critical part of helping our business community re-engage. Again, from a date standpoint is, and where we are directing those resources and that communication, we've, in policy tonight, identified the emergency powers being extended to May 5th, at which point we might be at we might have the opportunity to enter into phase 1 of the 3-phase re-engagement program. I think it would be beneficial from an operations standpoint to have that date more of our target date than the 5/26 date. We can always move that out and staying in communication with our community, our residents, and our businesses. But if we use the 5/26 date and then have to try to expedite because of the reversal, it's going to be more challenging.
No, thank you for your comments. Yes, Alderman Zapfel.
Thank you, Mayor.
And I'm sorry, one moment. Please add into record the documents from Alderman Kowalski. Mayor, Alderman Zapfel.
Already given up the gavel, first night.
Yeah.
One thing I didn't reference earlier is, as I was reading, I read a press release from a Republican state senator, Senator Fine from Fond du Lac. Fond du Lac is very close. I just want to read a quote here, and I'm happy to share that into record as well. We need to strike a balance between public safety and economic well-being. This plan is a step in the right direction, but it's not likely the silver bullet. Changes will need to be made moving forward as situations come in real time. I'm hopeful we can work together to provide the solutions our citizens deserve. And I feel from the discussion here tonight, that's a common theme here, is that we want to work together to come to solutions for our citizens in Oconomowoc.
Thank you. Any other comments? Alderman Rozak.
Yeah, just real briefly on my comments on the revenue. I think, Sarah, you said you guys were going to start putting some of those numbers together. I'd love to be part of that process if I can be, or at least if you share those numbers. Because I think it would help us as we evaluate where we can tighten our belt, because I think we're gonna have to. And seeing where we're anticipating revenue losses in the city will help us. I mean, for instance, and I don't mean to pick on Germany, Bob. But, you know, a lot of people are canceling their family trips for the rest of the year, and there's things that the city can start doing right now to start, you know, we could save thousands and tens of thousands of dollars in conferences and trips that other people have done and other communities have done. So it's just one of the ideas I have out there, and I think to the extent that we can start looking at that carefully over the next few weeks as we start coming through this, would put us in a better position when we come out, when this is done.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Ellis.
Matt, you bring up something that I've been thinking about for a very long time, especially being that these are different times now. Nobody really anticipated where we are today. They always talk about the 100-year flood, but then you kind of yawn and say to yourself, well, I don't think that's ever going to happen. Well, in so many ways, this is kind of the 100-year flood. So I think a lot of the things that we've even talked about as far as budget is concerned, some of the bigger items that we have approved, we should kind of reevaluate and consider maybe going in a different direction. So I just want to go ahead and put that out there, that we may want to go ahead in earlier than, I guess, when do we do budget? September?
Weeks.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to, I'd like to make that an agenda item.
Well, it's not. It's discussion on state of emergency city operations.
I understand that, and that's where I'm going. This is about emergency. I'm not giving anyone specific. I'm just saying that this needs to be discussed. We've made some approvals on things that we thought everything would be copacetic, no issues, no concerns. But now, with the fact that, you know, we've got this extra month coming, there's gonna be some economic issues that are going to happen. I think we need to look at some things, relook at them.
So you're talking about amending our current budget as opposed to getting into the next budget cycle?
That
That's
is correct,
fair.
yes.
I'm just trying to protect you all so you don't get $100 fine.
And I appreciate
Because
that.
you're violating the open meetings law by talking about something that's not on the agenda.
And I appreciate that. Thank you, Stan.
Cool.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any comments or discussion from city staff on this topic that you'd like to include? Okay, let's move on. Next item is mayoral appointments to council committees. Before you is a list of appointments to the different committees here at the city of Oconomowoc. I want to thank you, all the aldermen, for your engagement, your feedback, your input. These are one-year appointments, and we've had to adjust those based on the task force that we're launching today, and those will be a discussion a little later on. So thank you very much. We'll move on to the election of the president by aldermen. That's council president by aldermen. I'd like to open it up for nominations.
I'll move to nominate Lou Kavieski for council president.
I'll second that.
Oh, I was going to second that.
Are there any other nominations? With no nominations, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, we'll move on to the next. Election of council vice president by aldermen. Would somebody open with a nomination, please?
I'd like to nominate Alderman Ellis for vice president of council.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Alderman Rozak for council vice president.
Do I hear a second?
I was just going to withdraw my, but if there's a second, I guess I'll live with it.
Second.
Okay, and so in this process, if you would please write down either one of the two. And
There are tickets, excuse me, Mayor, that say for vice president. So if you would just write down your selection and pass them toward the mayor, and I'll gather them, please. Thank you. them? Okay. Okay. If you're ready, Mayor, I'll read them.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. We have a vote for Rosick. We have a vote for Ellis. We have a vote for Ellis. We have a vote for Rosick.
Uh-oh.
We have a vote for Rosick. We have a vote for Ellis. We have a vote for Ellis. And we have a vote for Ellis. So it's 5-3.
Congratulations.
That's the first thing I've ever won.
Great, let's move on to selection of council representative to the Plan Commission by aldermen. Is there a nomination, please?
I would like to nominate Lou Kavieski.
Second.
Any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Now I'd like to move on to mayoral appointments of emergency government director. I appoint the following individuals and request council's confirmation. For the emergency government director, I'd recommend Ron Berger. Do we have a motion?
Second. I make that motion.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I make that motion.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Before, as a point of order, before we move on to voting, can we have, is there any discussion on this item? Are we allowed discussion on this item?
Yes.
So, a couple things about the emergency government director. I've researched what other communities in our area are currently doing, and they are appointing the chiefs of the fire departments to this role. I don't know, as I sit here today, what the job description is exactly for this. We weren't provided that. I could have, I suppose, asked for that if it exists. I don't know if the person we're appointing, complies with that job description, or if there is a job description, Sarah?
I don't know if there's a job prescription per se, but when we had the fire department, still as a city department, you'll recall that, or maybe not, the chief of police actually was the public safety director and was the department head of the fire and the police departments. So this role of emergency government director would have been the department head. The history of it was always the department head that oversaw both public safety departments. Now we are part of Western Lakes Fire District, and I should say we're an owner, a part owner of Western Lakes Fire District, and they're separate, a separate entity, separate from the city. And so Chief Berger has continued to serve as our emergency management director for the city departments.
Were our police chiefs always the emergency?
In
government
Oconomowoc,
director?
yes, yes.
So what I understand right now is the emergency director for all the other communities that are in Western Lakes goes up to the fire chief. And at least right now, the way I'm looking at it is that creates a continuity in emergency response for the whole area. So if there's a significant emergency like a flood, a tornado, it's probably not going to affect just Oconomowoc. It may, but it may go into Summit and Dousman, Sullivan, other areas. And I think continuity of service would be an important thing. I think potentially now's not the right time to get into why we should or should not, but I think it's something we should address moving forward, what that job description is, what it should entail, and what the qualifications are for that. What I'm concerned about, what we do in the city sometimes is just, it's always the way we've done it, so we just do it again. For instance, I've never seen our emergency response plan. I don't know if we have one. Has that emergency response plan been submitted to council or the mayor in the past? Does Western Lakes Fire District have a copy of the emergency response plan? I don't know the answer to some of these questions, but I think it's something that we should address. I will be voting against the chief for this role at this time, but I also would encourage the council and potentially Protection and Welfare to look into defining what that role is. And I think it's emergent because of what we're dealing with today with the pandemic. If there's significant issues like this, a pandemic, it's probably not, a police officer kind of role. It's probably more paramedic, EMS, fire. And it feels like that's might be something we're confronted more than with an active shooter, for instance. So that's what I'd like to kind of dig into at some point, and that's the reason for my vote against it. It is nothing to do with Chief Berger directly. It's more what the role really is and what it should entail. And I think we need to define that better as a council moving forward.
I can offer that in addition to just responding to specific events, this position helps the city departments prepare. We do have an emergency response plan, a business continuity plan, and Chief Berger, in his role, has been the leader for our community in helping us navigate through even this particular situation. We work really closely with Western Lakes Fire District. Western Lakes Fire District does have their own EOC, which all of the owners, we have calls a couple times a week, and Chief and I sit in on both of those, and Mayor Magnus sat in on Monday for those calls, just as to keep the communities working together and knowing what each other are doing. So we do work, even though it's not, there's a formal division there, we are working together through all of that. And as we transition to Western Lakes Fire District, Chief Berger's role has been to continue to be the liaison, our main staff liaison with the Western Lakes Fire District, because that role was always the supervision of the fire and EMS department before. It was when Chief Lydell was, it was Deputy Chief Lydell, he was not a department head. Chief Berger or Chief Bagoon oversaw that at that time. So just some history, and so we can look into it,
Yeah,
but I just wanted to provide some context.
Again, this is nothing against Chief Berger, it's just something with the pandemic and kind of the way I'm looking at these appointments, it's just, we kind of do the same things over and over again, which can be fine, right? If it's working fine, but I think the role needs to be more clearly defined. I think I don't know that we can require someone to live in town, but I know Chief Berger does not live in the town. And so if we have a real true emergency, I think if we can appoint someone that lives in town or lives near town, the reality is if there's a real emergency and the chief is in wherever, I think he lives in Waukesha somewhere, our emergency director is going to be a captain or lieutenant that's on shift at night versus actually him until he gets here, if he can get here. And so having somebody closer or appointing year to year someone that is in town that can actually handle that role, that can go to the police station at our new, emergency command center or go to Western Lakes at their command center, I think is something we should look into. And I'll be pushing that for my next term, trying to get that defined, because it should be defined. We should know exactly what the conditions and what the role of that person should be, and not just, here's the new role. So thank you for taking some notes. And
Thank you, Alderman Rozak, and thank you for the comments. Just a side comment, if there are other issues like this, please let me know. I'm still getting ingrained into the city and learning day by day. So thank you for those comments. We have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion before we go to roll? A roll call, please.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Nay.
Alderman Rogers.
Nay.
Alderman Rozak.
nay.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Nay.
You have a tie vote, Mayor?
Yay, yes.
Okay.
Aye. It's late.
You did nominate him, so I figured you'd vote yes.
No problem, but I appreciate the comments. I think those are good. I would also like to appoint the following individuals at the request of council's confirmation: for city attorney, the Honorable Stanley Riffle; Municipal Law and Mitigation Group, SC. May I have a motion?
I'll move to appoint Attorney Riffle as our city attorney for another wonderful year in the city of Oconomowoc.
I'll second that.
Full year.
Any discussion? Roll,
We have to
please.
say honorable?
No, no,
Is
please.
that optional?
Please.
Not yet.
Guessing because it has an H in front of it, but
There you go. Oh, good one.
I thought it was Herbert.
It's not Horatio.
I didn't think of that. All right.
roll call, please.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder,
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper,
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski,
Aye.
Alderman Rogers,
Aye.
Alderman Rozak,
Aye.
Alderman Zappel,
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
I appoint the following individual and request council's confirmation for the Assistant City Attorney, Jeffrey Eck of Snyder and Eck.
So moved.
Second?
If I could be heard,
No.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, open for discussion?
The statute that we deal with here is 6212, or 62, gonna add 09 sub 12F, that technically says that I am the individual that may appoint the assistant. We have an ordinance that says that you do it with all of you. I just want you to all know, and so that it is official, that I will, whatever you do, that's my, what I
Yes,
will do.
yeah.
Okay?
That I have been informed on.
Should we be changing our ordinance to conform with state statute then?
No,
No.
Good.
no, but I mean, it's there in the statute. And I just want to make sure that for the record, it's clear that whatever you do, that's my appointment.
Any further discussion? Please call roll.
Alderman Spiegelberg,
Aye.
Alderman Mulder,
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper,
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski,
Aye.
Alderman Rogers,
Aye.
Alderman Rozak,
Aye.
Alderman Zappel,
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
And Jeff is the best guy for the job, too.
Good. I would also like to appoint the following individuals. No confirmation is necessary, but to the WPPI Energy Board, I'd like to put forth Joseph Pickert and Sarah Kitsemble as our alternate, and to inform the council of that action. Moving on, staff reports. Do we have any staff reports? Are you sure?
The Lord.
Okay, well then we're on to comments from the mayor, and we're going to start off with a proclamation for Arbor Day proclamation that I will read out loud.
On the back side,
There we
yes.
go.
There you go.
So this is great. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And trees are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas Oconomowoc has been recognized as a Tree City, USA, by the National Arbor Day Foundation for 27 years, and desires to continue its tree planting ways. Now, therefore, I, Robert P. Magnus, Mayor of the City of Oconomowoc, do hereby proclaim April 24th, 2020 as Arbor Day in the City of Oconomowoc, and I urge citizens to support the efforts to plant and care for trees and woodlands, and to support our city community's forestry program. This is dated today, the 21st day of April 2020. So now on to a few comments. We've all talked about let's get something done. And since the final tally of the election, our staff and a lot of incredible people have worked tireless hours to try to put something together for our city, which has affected all of you, as we've discussed over the last few days. We've put together an emergency task force. That task force, you've received the press release earlier today. I want to make sure that gets entered into record. It's called the Oconomowoc Responds. It's an emergency COVID-19 response and revitalization task force. The last 18 hours or so has been really difficult because we didn't know what to call it. And we put all this energy into put something together that we thought would help, but we had a hard time. And I sat back and we've lived here for over 30 years. I've raised my family here. And at the last minute, the word responds came across my text message. Didn't seem to have any critical issues with it, not a controversy that I could find. And I thought about it, and you think about Oconomowoc, we've always responded. You know, the church explosion, you know, the great recession of 2008, the rejuvenation of our downtown, that's responding, right? Well, now we're in the COVID pandemic, and we need to respond again. So what we've done is we put an action task force together, and our core objectives are to assist the needs of our constituents, the residents, the businesses, our nonprofits. And what we're going to do is assess those needs, define the resources that we need, and actually try to implement and have some positive change. We come back to, we need to do something now. Very great comments by Alderman Kavieski of, hey, let's not just look way down the road, let's start doing something now. That's what this task force was set up to do. But also looking at the resources that we have here in our city, we need help. We need help not just from a few people on a committee, but we need the whole community to do this. We've divided this team, as you well know, into this task force into 3 teams, and each has a strong leader. Business and economic growth is our own Bob Duffy, our economic development director. And so the council knows this gentleman has been absolutely tremendous. He's really come up for the charge and has really taken a strong leadership role. So that task force is working on business, both in our downtown area and in our entire city residents. Our next bucket is called residents, and we've asked Jason Curtis, the principal of the high school, to take a leadership role. We're all in this together, right? Everybody's suffering. How long are we going to suffer, right? And people need help. It may be with their utility bill. It may be because they're getting depressed, behavioral health issues. They're losing people. Alderman Zapfel, I'm sorry for the loss of your friends. That's hard. These things happen. Our next group are the nonprofits and the churches. They are such a vital part of our community. What we need to do is get out there and assess their needs and try to figure out how to work to help them. As I stand back and look at our community, a lot of wonderful people have done some great things. What we want to do is bring that together, get everyone communicating so that we can be more efficient and we can have a bigger impact. That's what this task force is all about. Pat Newdecker is going to lead us in the nonprofits and the churches, and many of you know her, and she's going to be great at this role. One thing I always feel important is accountability. As a person that enjoys numbers and as a businessman, you always have to have internal controls. So I've asked 3 of our aldermen to take leadership roles as in each one of those teams. And so I really want to thank Alderman Ellis, Kavieski, and Zapfel, who will be leading the charge to try to keep that communication, but really give an internal control to the council. This is a task force. We did due diligence with the staff. We did due diligence with legal counsel, so we had something that we could act on quickly. And that is starting, and we're very excited about it. Part of this, as I mentioned, it's going to take much more than just a few people trying to do something. We want to embrace and welcome everybody in our community. We call them partners. Those are individuals, they could be businesses, or they could be governments. I have directly reached out to get support from the Democratic Party and from the Republican Party. We want to help our representatives, and I've talked to them, and they're all willing to try to pitch in and help our community really become very strong when we leave this pandemic. Our timeline is short. This task force, if everything goes as planned, will be closed and no longer in existence before the end of the year. The time is now. Now is this first 90 days. Comes back to just about everybody's comments here. We're going to work really hard now to have some things we can implement. We're also going to be smart and look forward the next 3 to 4 months beyond that 90 days and 12 more months beyond that. utilizing those resources to come back to our committee structures, to the things that we have here. Let's respond, you guys, and let's unite. We can create a better version of our city in the months ahead, and I think that we have the structure. We've worked hard to build that structure. We're ready to execute that structure. In front of you, you have, and I've sent you the email of the press release on our response initiative. I'd like to leave it open if anyone has any comments or questions. Alderman Spiegelberg.
I just have 3 questions. First of all, I want to thank you. The press release is awesome, and I want to thank you for all the hard work you guys have done already in putting together this task force, and I'm really excited and interested to see what will come of that. I have 3 quick questions, and they're probably all to you.
Great.
So we've talked about the response time and how we need to get on this sooner than later. So when will you commence actually with meeting as the task force?
Yeah, the task force have already met, but not in full force. Great question. So what we've done is we've had meetings with the coordinators or the leaders of the team, and there's still a couple spots they're filling in each group. I can tell you, and Bob, correct me wrong, I think the business group is full at this stage so far. But remember, we're trying to have really lean and mean teams so we can get something done. Our biggest struggle is we want to invite everybody and get everybody's ideas, but we have to do it in a way that we can actually execute. We have too many people, it won't work. That's why the partner concept. So that's already happened. They've met, they're meeting again on Thursday, and then they're getting involved because our aldermen have been aware, but they haven't been fully engaged because we had to get to this point. But great question.
Okay, and then number 2, as with any other committee or board, we have the ability as aldermen, even if we're not on that committee or board, to sit in and just listen and observe. Will there be that opportunity with these meetings?
Yes.
Okay, so then will we get notification on when these meetings will be and where?
You will. I have to find out if there's a certain notification rule because I don't know.
Okay.
So because we're in a very tight time frame now, if any one of you has a strong interest, please contact me directly. I don't want to slow down the process, but I want to make sure that I do things appropriately according to the rules. But this is something to work very, very quickly, but yes.
Okay, and then my last question is, you talked about accountability back to the council. What will that communication look like?
We're developing that. So that part has not been defined. That's why I have aldermen on each of the teams. We're thinking of trying to do little reports, but until the aldermen get up with their chairs, they and their chair of these teams are going to make that decision, and then we'll come back to you and let you know. And if it's not sufficient, then we'll adjust.
Thank you.
Yeah. Alderman Kavieski.
This task force doesn't have the ability to expend city funds at this
Correct.
time, but this task force does have the ability to come back to this body to request funds be expended where they feel may be appropriate for consideration.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And thank you very much for that clarification. That's good. Anyone else? Yes, Alderman Rozak.
I got to talk into this thing and then turn around here.
Hey, turn around.
So if this is a kind of a piggyback off of Karen's question, which was good, on the communication back to the council and notification, I would think that if we have a member of the city council on these task force, and they may come back to city council and ask for money, we need to notify people that those meetings are occurring and anybody can come. It can't be just, an email amongst the 3 or 4 people on the task force.
Well, and what we have to be careful is the three alderman rules, so that's something I still have to do.
Actually, we have to be more careful than that.
Okay.
We're talking about this in the setting of the common council, and it seems to me that it looks like you're getting or trying to obtain blessing of the common council to go forward with this. You don't have to do that.
No, I'm
However,
looking for input.
in the context of what we're talking about, it may or may not be a governmental body that would be subject to the open meetings law. So I think that we need to deal with that issue. I don't know if this has been flushed out enough to understand for sure exactly what this is about, but I want to be very, very careful. So
And I'm not trying, right, and you jumped the gun, because I was gonna say if 3 or 4 aldermen show up at one of
I
these
don't even,
meetings.
yeah,
you-
well,
it's
that
an
would
open-
be definitely.
Right.
a
That'd be
meeting.
definitely, that's where
Yes.
that's why we have to come back and we have to get
Figure out how to
advice.
So
and-
I would suggest that no matter what, we treat it,
Mhm.
every one of the meetings of the 3 silos or whatever, be careful. Let's just treat it like it's an open meeting, give notice to the public, unless that's something that's contrary to your thinking,
Yeah.
that you don't want the public to be there to
Initi-
listen
in-
to them talk.
You know, initially, the challenge of doing that is
Yeah.
timing. We're not going to get anything done.
It's
so-
24-hour notice is all.
Correct, but what we also want to be able to do is, when we work with those groups, you only have one alderman in each
That-
one
that
of these teams.
Any
The only
constituted,
difference-
any governmental constituted entity
Okay.
is, you know, a governmental body under the.
Let's table this and I'll come back to you. Let's
Okay.
figure out the definition,
Okay.
which then we can come back so we can help the aldermen know what they can and cannot participate in from a,
You're gonna have fun with that.
Well, participate and observe are two different things. I'm not talking about like participate. And citizens wouldn't, as they don't on the committees and the boards, have an opportunity to participate either. So it's basically an observation type of role. So I don't think it would make the meetings go on longer than you think, if that seems like
I'm
that's a
not,
concern.
I'm not worried about the meetings going longer. I'm just making sure we do it legally.
Okay.
Right.
If we do it legally, then we'll know, but we need some more due diligence, so.
And that, I wasn't trying to throw a monkey wrench in the thing, but it's something that just popped into my mind from
Nope.
her question, which is, you know, if 4 of us show up, it's an open meeting. And, you know, it's a constituted body, so we just have to be careful and make sure that we're doing it right.
And in some circumstances, if 3 of you show up,
Yeah.
negative quorum.
Yeah, our understanding, we could have 2, and so then we'd have 1 that would not be able to join and would get updated by the team leader. That was our plan, but we'll re-investigate that. Thank you for the input. Any other questions? You have more detail than we've talked earlier. I just wanted to make sure that you're aware of it, and we've also sent this out for public opinion, or excuse me, for a press release, and hopefully that'll be, will go well. So what I'd like to do is give you a few closing statements fairly quickly, and then ask if there are any additional comments from the aldermen. First of all, folks, I'm really honored and excited to be your mayor, and really appreciative of the votes from our citizens here in Oconomowoc. As I mentioned earlier, we are in challenging times, but we all want the same thing, and I think we can work together to do that. We all want to get back to work quickly as possible. The question still remains as to when and the how, and I think the open discussions here are productive. Our residents and our businesses, you know, they want us as a council and as a mayor to have meaningful and productive actions moving forward, and I think we can deliver that. It's time to get partisan politics out of our city government. We have to deliver on that. Equity and equality for all, there's still a lot of work to be done in our city and our community, and I think we need to deliver on that. Let's work together, and as we talked about Oconomowoc Responds, let's continue to follow what we've done historically, and it's such a great community, and respond and move forward. We are Oconomowoc Strong, and Oconomowoc Responds. So I'd like to move on to the next agenda of reports and comments from the aldermen. Alderman Spiegelberg.
I would just like to say welcome to all the new aldermen. I think I can say that this is probably the most diverse council ever in the history of the city of Oconomowoc in so many different ways. And I think that's really exciting, and we're looking forward to working with all of you guys.
Other comments? Alderman Zaffel.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to thank Mayor Knoll and Charlie Shaw for their service, and the aldermen that took the time to meet with me along my journey when I was running for office. I really appreciate everyone's time, and I value that, and I look forward to continuing conversations moving forward. Also want to thank my wife and family who are still watching. Appreciate their support, and all my other friends and family, as well as my colleagues, for their support along this journey as well.
Alderman Kavieski.
I'd just like to say to everybody watching that may hear this, your council, the way it sits right now with your mayor, will do everything that we can to provide. We got like 27 people watching right now. It's a lot. We'll do everything that we can to provide you with the unified leadership that you're gonna require. Come out of this on the other side. I am excited about those who sit in these seats. Everybody's point of view is respected. That will continue from previous council to this council, even though we may disagree. And that is what makes this body really fun to be a part of.
Thank you, very nice. Any other comments? Alderman Ellis.
Yeah, I just want to welcome you
Well,
to
thank you.
council as the mayor, and I want to tell you that I will be here to support you. Have any questions, go to Matt.
Any other comments from, Alderman Shell Pepper?
Yeah, I'd also like to, I'd like to thank the residents of District 2 for trusting me to serve them, to represent them on this council. It's beyond an honor. I'm very grateful. And whether you voted for me or not, you're always going to be first and foremost in every consideration and decision I make. I see the residents of District 2 are my primary, serve them as the primary duty, and the city as well. I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank the city staff again for all the hard work they put on to hold the election, to make sure it could happen. I'd like to thank Alderman Shaw, Alderman Zwart, Alderman Stray, and Mayor Nold for their service to the city. I'd like to thank my family for supporting me and encouraging me throughout the campaign. And I think Alderman Zwart really said it correctly when he said Alderman Stray is a tough act to follow. And so I won't be able to follow that act, but hopefully I'll be able to, create my own act and create my own path. I really do want to thank Alderman Stray and Alderman Kavieski, both of the representatives of District 2, who immediately, when I voiced, my interest in running, that they really took me under their wing and encouraged me throughout the process. It really meant a lot, and so I really appreciate that. I look forward to serving the city with transparency and integrity. Those are the values I'm always going to live by. And ensuring that the platform that I ran on, as I knocked on hundreds of doors over the last couple months, that I'm true to to that platform. Thoughtful growth, fiscal responsibility, and community engagement, which is also transparency. And it should be present in every decision that I will make on this body. And we have serious work to do with the COVID crisis, and it certainly was not something I would have ever thought I'd be dealing with when I first launched this campaign in November, December. It's really just, it's a crisis. There's no doubt about it. It's a pandemic, and we're going to face it together as a community. And we have an obligation to do all we can to support our residents and businesses, and that's what we're going to do. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the alderman? Just before closing and asking for a motion to close, I just want to thank my family and my best friend Gina, who's been just spectacular in this whole process, and also to thank all of the councilmen as you help me in this new role. I'm going to have some bumps along the way, but I'm a fast learner, and I will always be there for you. I will listen. I will take every consideration, whether I like it or I don't like it, that you want to bring to the agenda item, and I will listen to you. And we will work together to try to meet the needs and the things that are important to your constituents. So again, thank you, and I would love to entertain an motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you all.